Before we get to the episode, exciting news. I have a new podcast, a second podcast. I am the host and producer of the Strandcast, the official podcast for Strand Bookstore in New York City at 12th and Broadway, the coolest independent bookstore. And now there's a podcast every other week featuring long-form conversations with authors from different genres. The Strandcast is available on iTunes and Stitcher. Just search for The Strandcast. Links will be in the show notes, of course, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now for the show. Hello there, my friend. Welcome to episode 199 of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice, and this is my podcast that you are listening to. Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, both established and emerging. And usually, each episode, I just interview one person, but on this special 199 episode, I put together 3 of my favorite past conversations. There were a lot to choose from that I liked, but I narrowed it down to these 3, something early, something mid, something later. For the early episode, music photographer Mel D. Cole, episode number 26. Mid, you got Halfway, episode 118, that is the solo project of Nandi Rose Plunkett. And for something later, Rue Snider, episode 166. All 3 shows, original episodes under one convenient package. I know you will enjoy them. Here it is, without further ado, my conversations with Mel D. Cole, Halfway, and Rue Snider. Enjoy. Welcome, my friend, to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boice. This is Boice, and this is my podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this happens to be your first time listening, this is a weekly music interview podcast where I have discussions with people who make music, write about music. They are connected to music in some way, and today's guest is no different. I'm interviewing my very first photographer, music photographer, Mel D. Cole. He is based here in New York. He is well known for his live photography of hip-hop artists. He has shot Erykah Badu, A$AP Rocky, Common, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Kanye, Nicki Minaj, and so many more. He is the house photographer for the Roots crew. Questlove even said he is his favorite contemporary photographer. In 2012, Complex Magazine named him one of their 50 greatest music photographers working today. We had a wonderful conversation where we talked about his life story, how he got into photography, how our choices define us, and he has made some wonderful choices that has led him to where he is today. I know you guys are going to enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoy talking to him, and not to denigrate or belittle any other conversation I had. This was definitely one of my favorite ones, hands down. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Here it is, without further ado, Mel D. Cole here on Talk Music Talk. Enjoy. So first thing I was interested in is a lot of times on the show I end up talking to people not just about their career, about how they overcame stuff or how one thing propelled them. So when I see the Complex, when they chose you, it was like 50 of their favorite photographers.
Oh, Complex? Yes.
Yeah. So when that happens, does that make a difference, or did it make a difference in your career, or what?
No.
Didn't?
No.
Okay.
Zero impact.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll take it back. Maybe not zero impact. Amongst my peers and other photographers, I guess, like, there is, there's competition and, that kind of thing. And people, they might look at you differently if, a little closer.
Yeah.
They might look at you differently if you are placed higher or lower than someone else and so on and so forth. But as far as, like, propelling my career or, financially, I would say I saw zero difference.
Okay. How'd you find out about?
How did I find out about
that you were
it?
chosen?
Through Twitter and social media. Yeah, people, you wake up. Well, I wake up, and one of the first things I'll do is, go through my routine, and I'll see what's going on in the world. And there's, like, more I guess, ats or whatever it's called, than normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I was chosen for that. 50 is like, one of the best music photographers in the world. Which I thought the list was, honestly, when I told them, I thought it was kind of bullshit.
Yeah. To
be honest, because, like I was saying before, you think that... I felt that I should have been placed higher than what I was.
Yeah, what number were you again?
14 or something like that. Yeah, and there were people higher than me, and I just sucked my teeth. I'm like, really? And then they left off some amazing photographers. Like one, namely Danny Clinch, who's, he's like one of the gods of music photography. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they came up with another list of... the 20 photographers we forgot to put on this list. And he was one of the people, and they quoted me, which was good. Yeah, it was more correct. Like, I would rather be left off the list and have him be where I am or whatever than myself, because he's just that dope to me.
Was he one of your influences? Or?
No. I wasn't influenced by anyone. I just started shooting. And then I learned that my styles started, to resemble other photographers. Yeah. But if you were to ask me if I was influenced by anyone, no. The answer would be no. Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. So when so at that point when that article came out, how long had you been doing photography?
I think that came out in 2013.
Okay.
I've been shooting technically since 2002, but I guess I wouldn't call myself a professional until maybe about 5 years after that. So about that long.
Okay. So I was curious because before we started recording, you're saying how you love sports. So why was it music as opposed to sports photography?
Music, it's easier access, for one. When you live in New York, there's just more of it versus sports. And sports it's hard to get, to shoot, like, seriously, as a photographer.
Yeah.
There, and it's expensive. You just can't go for free. Like, I can go, go to SOBs, and they love my work, and I've been going there for 10 years now, and I could walk up and just about go into probably any show that I want to there at any day, whatever, unannounced, which is remarkable to me. I just can't walk up to MSG like, hey, guys, I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big factor, the financing. And also, I hate to say it, but I might love music a little bit more, like just a little bit more than I love sports.
That's good.
Yeah. But I love sports too.
So what music?
Go Bills.
So what music you listen to?
Right now?
Yeah, or in general.
What am I listening to
right now and then in general?
In general, I've been listening to a lot of funk. A lot of like jazz stuff, a lot of stuff that a lot of hip hop records have been sampled from, like George Clinton to Al Jarreau to James Brown. I've been listening to this song that George Clinton put together a compilation. Maybe it might have been back in like '85 or something like that. But the song is called Super Spirit, and I've been listening to that constantly for like the last 5 or 6 days. Like, it's been on repeat on my phone and at home. And also, obviously, at this point, the Kendrick Lamar album,
everyone's talking about that.
Like, I find that album just amazing. I think I know he doesn't want people to say it right now, but it's a classic to me. Yeah. Like, it's amazing. So I've been listening to that album a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to listen to music? Does it get you prepped when you're going out to do for shows, or just being at the show itself is enough? Or
music is just such a daily part of my day. Like, I don't think I go a day without listening to music. I really don't even think about it. I cut on my computer and I'm cutting on Spotify or iTunes and I'm listening to music. So really doesn't I don't really think about it. But look, going to a show is never just enough for me. So no,
Okay. Do you play an instrument?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you've always been a music lover? Or?
Always. My father owned a record store when I was growing up.
Okay, where at?
In Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
Yep. So he owned a record store. At one time, he owned 2 record stores. So I've been around music practically my whole life, and just always enjoyed it, man. Like it's can I curse on this?
Yes, you can.
It's the shit.
You are allowed to curse on podcast.
Yes, motherfucker. Yes.
So let's go back. So you're born from Syracuse, New York, brothers, sisters? Or?
Yes, born in Syracuse, New York, 1976. As you can see from these gray hairs, I'm going to be 39 this year. I'm proud of it. Okay. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. All halves. Yeah, brother and sister on my mother's side, brother and sister on my father's side. My mother and father were never married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same here, buddy. Same.
Happens.
I know what you're talking about.
Shouts to my dad. He was always in my life, and he's one of my best friends. Yeah. And love my dad. I'm a daddy's boy, for sure.
So what was Syracuse like?
Syracuse. Syracuse is small city. I might maybe a little bit more than small, maybe towards the medium side, but not so medium. Yeah. 4 public high schools. I believe now there's 5. I went to 3 of the 4. Yeah. Didn't go to what the kids back, when we were kids, is the corny one. Didn't go to that one.
What was it corny?
It was just
the preppy one.
No, it wasn't even the preppy one. It was just like on the real dingy side of town. I wouldn't call it poor. I mean, shit, I came from a poor neighborhood, but it was like dingy.
So it was poorer than poor?
It was just poor. And the building, like, there was always rumors that it was built on a swamp and it was sinking, and the sports teams always sucked. Like, they just didn't get any respect in school. And it's like kind of like if you lived on that side of town, you didn't get the same amount of respect as you would get living on the south side or the east side. This school is on the west side. But yeah, I didn't go to that school. I went to all the other 3. Okay. Which was 3 high schools.
Better caliber. Yeah.
And better caliber, but I didn't really give a shit. I just was chasing girls and getting in trouble.
Yeah. What kind of trouble?
What'd you say?
What kind of trouble you getting in?
Oh man, it's just I didn't really like school. So I mean, at first, 9th grade, I played football. Okay. Growing up, Pop Warner, in 9th grade, I was doing good, and then girls got me in trouble, and then started hanging out with dudes that were selling drugs, and started not really giving a fuck about school at all, and got into a bunch of fights. In my first high school, I got jumped over this girl. Her name was Nefertiti. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful girl. Everybody in the school wanted her. And I got her. And every dude was jealous, and I was jealous of myself, and I was jealous of don't look at her and all this shit. Like, I was so fucked up. And lo and behold, this guy wanted to test me, and I walk out and about to fight, and another dude comes off the wall, punch me, I get jumped. And I broken nose, 2 black eyes. Oh yeah.
Was that bad?
Yeah.
What grade was that?
9th grade.
9th grade. Okay.
9th grade, man. 9th grade. And it was, I mean, shit, I look back at it now, it's horrible, because I went to school the next day with the biggest black eyes ever, with the whole school surrounding me, wanting to know what I'm going to do next. And these fools came to school. And this is where I knew my life, looking back at it, was taking a downswing. Because my friends brought guns to school. Okay. And I mean, this dude, if he would have showed up, who knows? I might not be sitting here with you. Maybe, you know, who the fuck knows? But something probably bad would have happened to him. So I wound up getting suspended. And this guy, I don't even know their names anymore, but one of my friends knocked him out. And the other dude, who knows? But I heard one of them ended up in jail for a very long time. Not because of that, but just because of history of bullshit. And the other one. I would recognize both of them today if I saw them, I bet, but I haven't seen them in over 20 years. So, So then I went to another school, and this is where I was just like, I tried to play football, but I was just like, I'm not with getting yelled at by a coach anymore, and I would show up late. I think I had like the most lates and absences I broke some kind of record, I think the principal told me.
The bad kind of record.
Yeah, it wasn't a good record to be proud of, and then I transferred to another school, and that's when I got my shit together. I was like, yo, my dad had to talk with me. It's like, yo, you are either going to end up dead or go to jail. At this time, I have not close friends, but there are kids that I knew that ended up dead. There are kids that I knew that were in prison, like real prison, not just downtown at the county shit, like locked up 10 years and so on and so forth. I looked at it, I was like, I don't want to be that guy. So I got my shit together. I went to school and started getting B's and A's and some shit. And I went to this program called the Liberty Partnership Program. It's like a tutoring program after school. And they told me I was behind, I think, 2 grades at this point. And they told me that I could still go to college without graduating. And I was like, really? How? Told me, you get your GED. You're already 2 years behind. They explained the process to me. It was like, cool. So I had my dad and mom come to school. We sat in a meeting with the principal, and boom, next thing you know, I applied to school, took the GED test, got accepted into college, and got my GED back, and I was out. Went to college and never looked back. I haven't lived in Syracuse since 1998. I came home a few summers. Besides that, I've been living around here.
Okay. So going back, so when you changed at the last school, was that your dad talking to you was the main thing, or were there other things that had happened?
It was mostly my dad's talk with me. Because there were times where I was just disrespectful. I mean, like smoking weed in the house, doing dumb shit, like thinking that blowing out the window, it wasn't going to stink up the house. He's, coming home from work. And although my dad, smoked and all that shit when he was younger, and all, but still, it's his house. And so I think, disrespectful shit. Having girls over and letting my friend fuck in my bedroom and I'll have the living room. My dad, I remember one morning my dad just walks out butt naked thinking that no one's up, and this girl, I'm on the couch with this girl, and he's like, what the fuck, man? Got his dick all out. I'm like, oh man, what the fuck? So shit like that.
Like that.
And my dad's like, yo, you gotta get your shit together or you're gonna have to go.
I guess he's been talking to you before that.
Oh, right? He was talking to me.
But it finally clicked.
It finally clicked, and besides that, I started hanging out with these 2 dudes, Justin Cameron and his brother, JC. And they lived a whole different experience from what I was living. There were these 2 mixed kids, black and white, but their life was more like on the white side of things, quote unquote, So
how'd you meet them?
Through football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we played football growing up together, and then when I went to the last high school, I've always been the kind of guy I hung out with a whole different people all the time. I never just had one clique that I was with. Dibbled and dabbled. I used to call myself, I still do, like a chameleon. So these guys, they were going to field parties.
A field party?
A field party.
What's that?
I'll be blunt. We're a bunch of white people. They're and there's few blacks. I was one of them. In the woods. And there's fucking keg dug into the ground, and you're just...
I think I've been one of those. I didn't know there was a name for it.
It's called a field party. That's what they call it in Syracuse, and it was like, we're next to some train tracks, drinking fucking beers out of a keg. The first time I ever done that, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? But this is fucking awesome. Like, this is a party? Like, there's no dancing? I'm not gonna dub up on something and all this shit, and I just... kind of was like enamored by this whole different lifestyle that I did not know existed, but it was right under my nose because I was so like in my own bubble of living in the hood, hanging with just my friends and all that shit. And once I expanded, and these kids were doing like having fun, but also they were about getting their education. So they kind of influenced me to do better and to get my shit together. And and just do better in life. You know, I wanted to, because they were all about going to college. I mean, shit, we were talking about Friends before we got on, and the first time I ever saw Friends, like even like a second of it, was hanging with them. And we were getting ready to go up to the university, Syracuse University, to go have some beers. But it's Thursday night. But they wouldn't leave
until after Friends.
And I was like, what is this shit? Like, I want to watch Martin. Turn the TV to Martin.
Martin reruns?
No, it wasn't reruns. That was live. That was live back then, man. Shit, so, yeah, those kids, they helped me, you know, motivated me. And then also the fact that just going to school, going to another place, I felt like I can... sort of like reinvent myself and not become a different person, but just add on to who I am or who I was at that point.
Did you have to make a break from the old friends, or at some point?
Yeah, at some point, definitely at some point. I tried. I had this one friend, Hakeem Ashley, who was one of my best friends at the time. And I told him, I was like, yo, I think I'm going to go to college. It was almost like, I look back at it and it's like a movie scene. I feel like I was in Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society. So she was like, yo, Hakeem, I'm going to go to college. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Fuck college. I'm trying to make this money. I'm like, nah, dogs. I'm going to go. It's mad chicks. I'm going to get so much pussy. I was like, you could still smoke weed and do whatever you want. You just got to go to school. You can learn what you want to learn. He's like, I don't know, fuck that. How I'm going to pay for it? I was like, yo, no, you're going to take out loans. It's going to change your life. I had to leave him behind. He wound up, I think he's still in jail now.
Really? Okay.
I mean, this is my dude. Like, we used to go to Marshall's and change price tags on shit and get the Flyers polo shit and Nautica and all that shit. And, like, this is my guy. And I had to leave him behind because, I mean, literally, he was just wanted to be a petty thief and criminal and sell a little bit of drugs. Like, he didn't even have the mindset at that time to really like be the boss of his own shit.
Working for someone else.
He's working for someone else or just selling like little bullshit. I mean, and I love him to death still. I think he's locked up in New Jersey now. He got out of jail and wind up coming down to New York. I talked to him on the phone maybe 2 years ago. Next thing I know, he gets caught in New Jersey for like a big ass pack of heroin, taking it back up to Syracuse. So that's an example of someone that I just knew that I couldn't keep close to me because it would just bring me down.
Yeah, it's gonna hold
and there's
down.
Other friends as well that, I mean, and they still get on me to this day. Like, I'll show you a text like, yo, you're not fucking with us no more up here. It's like, no, I'm not. It's not that I'm not fucking with y'all. It's just that I'm not about that type of lifestyle anymore. And I'm a different person. And not for nothing, you know, I don't really know you guys anymore like that. I know you from 20 years ago, before you did the 20 years. You're still my dude. You're still my boy, all of that shit. But I'm down here hustling, doing my thing. You're there doing your thing. I can't, you know.
Is there ever like a survivor's guild or if you got out? Or?
Yes. There is sometimes. But you can't, for me, I can't really think about it too much. I mean, shit, there's been people that I've met living here in New York when I first started shooting that I had to leave behind. That would just be like, yo, I want to go to that party with you. Like, nah, you really can't go to this party because I'm actually working. And I'm working, you know. I'm trying to build something for myself. I might not be getting paid for what I'm doing, but I'm working, and it's I don't have a plus one, and I know I can get myself in. And you're a dude, so it makes an expression. And, you know, so sorry. And I've had
I've had people tell me because I don't get plus one to go to people's shows, but I don't feel right asking you for a plus one if you didn't offer in the first place.
Exactly.
So let's say you finish, you get your GED, you go to college. What college did you go to?
I went to, started off at Mohawk Valley Community College in Utica, New York. I did, I think, a year and a half there. I started doing well at first and then got caught up. I started seeing myself going back into the rabbit hole. And then I transferred and went to Morrisville, SUNY Morrisville, which was probably about 30 minutes away from there. And that's where I started to excel. I got involved with, I I was the president of the Black Student Union at one point. I became an RA. And that's where I saw myself like, wow, like I am a leader. I can do this. People listen to me. People follow me. This is the right place. Yeah. I'm doing the right thing. And this is my first time like graduating from anything, which is a super proud moment. Graduated in 1999 from there. Then I went to Stony Brook in Long Island. Yeah. And still was involved with student activities.
Is that for grad school or you
finished up? Yeah, I got my bachelor's from Stony Brook. Yeah. So
what's your major?
Cinema and Cultural Studies. Okay. Yeah.
So that been an interest of yours a long time?
No, that's shit, man. At Morrisville and Mohawk Community College, I was literally like liberal arts. I did not know what I wanted to do. Yeah. I just knew that I did not need to be in Syracuse. Yeah. I needed to learn something. So I was always interested in learning what I wanted to learn. There wasn't a major at those two schools that I was like I was like, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. But when I got to Stony Brook, the degree is called Multidisciplinary Studies. Okay. And basically, you could take 2 or 3 studies and put them together. And I chose Cinema and Cultural Studies and African American history, and I put them together and created basically my own shit. And with a major big focus on the cinema side. And at one point I thought maybe acting. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe producing a film, maybe that, maybe something around those was, but it wasn't. It was mostly just studying film, what I would probably say if I knew better, I would probably be like some great reviewer right now, like starting my blog back in 2000, and who knows what would be of it right now. Yeah. But yeah, if I had the intellect to do that, I wish I did. But
what were some of the movies that affected you that you saw?
Pulp Fiction, Maltese Falcon is one of my favorites. Mr. Society, Boys in the Hood, She Hate. Nah, that wasn't out then. Do the Right Thing, which is one of my favorites. I mean, they were all around. I mean, as you see from Maltese Falcon is so old and great. It's one of my favorite movies of all time to modern classics.
What did you like about the movies, like critiquing? Because you'd have to watch them and then critique them.
Yep. Yeah. That was a big part of the cinema and culture studies, like critiquing them and breaking them down and understanding why some actors, act and wearing a mask and taking that mask off and then revealing themselves, and when they don't reveal themselves. And it kind of translated into myself, where it's like, yo, fuck wearing a mask, but it's hard not to wear that mask every day. It's hard not to just walk down the street and fucking say hello to everyone. Just as simple as that every day. Like, how weird would that be if everyone said hello to you all the time? Something like that. But every now and then, I just take it off, and I'll just fucking go outside and just scream. Yeah. And sometimes I'll, like on Easter, I was saying Happy Easter, everyone around here. And sometimes I'll say hello to everyone. It freaks them out, but fuck it.
Which is sad that saying hello to somebody can freak.
It's very sad.
It's like, sad. If you call people like customer service and you're like, oh, how are you doing? It's just oh, good. It's like people don't know how to react.
No, they don't. Especially in New York, where even I get like that when someone says hello to me. I'm like, the fuck do you want? Like, did you take something out of my pocket secretly? What did you do to me? So yeah.
So when you were in college, did you have any idea what you were going to do after college? Or
no.
Any plan?
I had a loose plan. Very, very loose plan. I thought that I was going to continue to do student activities in some role, be a dorm director, something of that sort. So I moved in with a graduate student who was my friend, Stanley. And Stanley, he was obsessed with my girlfriend at the time. Okay. Or maybe he gave it up. Who knows? But super nice guy. And moved in with him, like all of my shit in his apartment. Like he's And I met him because I was pledging Alpha Phi Alpha. And I was looking for jobs. I don't even know what the hell how do you look for jobs at that point. Some kind of site on the internet that took forever to come up. But I was doing that, and I wound up getting a couple of interviews, phone interviews. Yeah. One was for a dorm director job in Hawaii. Okay. But they wanted me to fly myself out there. I was like, that's fucking crazy. Like, who would do that? It's like, it's nice, you can turn into vacation. I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. No way.
Yeah, there's no guarantee.
So then I got a phone interview for a job in Philadelphia, University of the Arts. We did this phone interview, and it went well. It was great. And they're like, yeah, we'll be in contact. I was like, whatever, okay. They called me back maybe a day or two later, and it's like, yeah, so we would like to offer you the job. I was like, offer me the job over the phone? Like, well, you didn't even see me. Like, you sure? In my head, in the back of my mind, I was like, do you know I'm black? Like, like all these emotions are going through my head. Like, all of this shit. And I was like, all right, fuck it. Packed up my girlfriend's car at the time, and we drove down to Philadelphia. And that was my first real job out of college. I was a dorm director, part-time. But I had an apartment. I think I worked maybe 20 hours a week or something like that. And during that time, I ended up I started substitute teaching in the school the public schools there, and that was a fucking trip. And a half, man. Like getting told one time, I was like, I did everything from mentally handicapped kids to high school. One story I remember, I was doing a mentally handicapped substitution, and I remember the principal coming in, and this was a job that I could have kept probably for the whole year. Because it was a system, and they tell you how long, when you call, that calls you, and they'll tell you how long the job is. So I could have kept this job forever. The principal comes up like, hey, Mr. Cole, anyone giving you any problems in here? I was like, yeah, this one right here. He walked up to this kid and was like, jacked him up against the wall. Was like, you listen to Mr. Cole. Don't give him any problems. We need him to stand in school in front of the whole class. I was like, oh, shit. Well, mind you, I didn't go back the next day. I was like, yeah, this motherfucker is crazy right now.
So that's all it took, just point somebody.
It felt like, I mean, I couldn't believe this was in the 2000s. I thought it was back in the 80s when there's paddling rumors still and all that shit. So
it's like you put a hit on that guy.
Right. So fast forward, on the opposite of that is like one time I was doing I did high school in South Philly High, and going to class, and mind you, I looked young as shit then. I looked like some of these students. They were seniors and juniors in the class, walking, and I'm sitting down, and they're still waiting for the teacher, and I'm like, all right, everybody, I'm your substitute, Mr. Cole, and they're just looking at me like, Negro, please, get the fuck out of here. So I'm like, your teacher left an assignment, blah, blah, and I just remember someone raising their hand, can you turn on BET? I was like, nah, I can't do that, man. It's like, nah, just turn on BET, yo. It's like, fuck this shit, like, we're not gonna learn anything to the same shit that I would probably say. So I was like, I'm thinking that I'm gonna do better than what my substitute. No, you're gonna learn today, da-da-da-da. So, lo and behold, I basically was told if I don't turn on the TV, I was going to get my ass kicked. And all I remember is
it sounds incredible.
Someone looked in the back and was like, looked up and was like, my full name is Jamel. I was like, Jamel? I was like, yo, shit, what are you doing? It's my cousin.
Oh, really?
In the class. My cousin Takeem in the class, and he was like, "Oh, chill, everybody. This is this family." Like, chilled it out. So everybody was cool. I cut on BET. Wound up staying at the school for about 5 or 6 days, going to basketball games, all this stuff, trying to get involved. And it's crazy. My cousin Takeem, I just kind of reunited with him through social media. Come to find out that Meek Mill is his cousin.
Oh, really? Okay.
Weird. So
everybody's related,
right? We're all related. And I see Meek Mill in LA. maybe in February, and I was like, I told him, I was like, take your photo. I was like, we share a cousin. He's like, who? He's like, Talk. And he's like, oh shit, Talk is back here. He told me about you. You're a photographer. And so wind up going back and I get these amazing photos of Meek Mill because of my cousin. Small world. Small world.
So he got you photographs and he stopped you from getting jumped.
He stopped me from getting my ass whooped. Thank you,
classroom.
Thank you. I owe you one.
So you finished up the school, all that.
Finished up the school. Moved, they didn't retain me at University of the Arts. I was anticipating that. Applied for the Teaching Fellows program in New York City here. Moved back to New York, got into the program. And mind you, I thought this was like the most bugged out experience in the world. I'm a high school dropout with a GED, and here I am, a teacher, hanging out in the teacher's lounge. It's very ironic to me. I was just, wow, this is the teacher's room. Holy shit. So, got into the Teachers Fellows program. Did that for, about 2 or 3 months. Didn't work out for me. Ended up doing.
Did you train for a year, right? Or
you were supposed to go to school for like 2 years. Yeah. So I was going to school at Marcy College for grad stuff. But it just wasn't like, I loved teaching, but the administration, because they put you in like the bad schools and they didn't want to change, and they were just looking at me like, who the fuck are you? They weren't very accepting of people that didn't have teaching degrees. So, and I wasn't doing very well with dealing with them. So it just was a bad match. Ended up working at this pharmaceutical company called Forest Research Institute. Did that for 5 years. Wanted to blow my brains out every day that I was there.
Like sales? What are you doing?
Not sales, like data entry.
Okay.
Basically, it was like in a transition of putting all these files into the internet, basically, into their intranet, whatever you want to call it. So I did that for 5 years, wearing slacks, fucking polo shirts. And this is what I was telling you, like, I started listening to Howard Stern. Howard Stern fucking saved my life.
Oh, really? How's that?
Like, just by listening to him, got me through every day.
Yeah. Well, you listen to it in the morning?
Every day, every morning, man. My friend Lawrence, I would walk past his desk and he would have on one headphone and the other one out just listening. And so he would laugh his ass off. And one day I asked him, like, what are you listening to? Howard Stern. I was like, that racist motherfucker? He's like, nah, dude, he's not a racist. It's funny as fuck. Give him a chance. So I bought myself a little radio and I started listening to him. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I feel like I'm a part of his life. I'm down with the Whack Pack and all these crazy fucking characters and his mom and his dad and his impersonations. Like, he's awesome. And yeah, my friend that put me on, he wound up dying in a car crash. That sucked. But I listened to him for the longest time, and he got me through a lot of like low moments of just doing this fucking job. And this is around year 2 of the job. Like I took these photos at SOBs in 2002 with a disposable camera of Common, because I was in love with Common at the time. But I was working this job. And it didn't dawn on me like, hey, buy a real camera at first. But a couple years later, it dawned on me. I kept looking at the photos and started getting some magazines, started seeing some work. I was like, I could do this shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Why don't I do it? So I started going out more. I got my social life together, going to parties. And I was the only one with a camera and taking party photos. And so I had like this one scene on lock. It was like, that's Mel D. Cole, the photographer. He takes parties, takes photos at parties. And from doing that led me to I always loved music, going to concerts more. Like these magazines would hire me, hey, do you want to go shoot The Roots at so-and-so? Sure, why not? So that led me into, like, I always loved The Roots, but then I started going to a lot of Root shows and just never stopped going to Root shows, and built my website, because I all started from like posting photos on MySpace. And then I had a newsletter. It was a bootleg ass newsletter. Then I started posting photos on Flickr, and I would go to OK Player, which is the Roots site, and on the forums and post my photos on there. And the admin people got a wind of that. Then I built my first site, was a piece of shit, but hey, it worked.
You did the job.
Next thing you know, like, here I am, the roots photographer, and so on and so forth. Getting interviewed by you.
Thank you. So when you did got the disposable camera, you were just going as a fan to the Common show. Were you thinking of anything larger than that, or
no,
like this is just
not.
for my own personal?
I had 2 disposable cameras, and a lot of them I was taking selfies before selfies were a thing. Like, I have selfies of myself in front of the sign, like the advertising. No, I wasn't thinking about being a photographer. It was just I was a fan. I was in the front row, and I had a sign. I remember making this sign at my job. And I brought a change of clothes to my job so I can look like myself going to this concert and not looking like a fucking tool or Wall Street dude. And I went as a fan. Yeah. And
how long did you sit on those photos?
At least 2 or 3 years, something like that. Like, I have had a box. I still have the same box. This Adidas box. And every year I would take them out and reorganize them and just look at them. And... yeah, that's it. I wish I had thought about, like, the negatives. I really don't have many of them, so I can't really do much blowing up with them. Okay. Because I wasn't thinking. I was like, negatives, I'm never going to do anything with this shit.
So when did you get the get a camera and start taking pictures?
Let's see. Probably around 2004. Okay. 2005, I bought a Fuji semi... SLR, digital SLR, and I bought one of those. And
the goal is just going to be, I'm just going to go to shows or parties or whatever. And start.
Yeah.
So put that thought in your head, like, I'm just going to start taking shows.
I don't know. Pictures. Actually, I do know. That's a lie. Like, I wanted to be known for something more than just being a face in a crowd, being a guy that was going out. And there was another guy that was taking photos that I saw out. His name is Tone. I would see him out every once in a while, but he was totally different from me. Yeah. So I would just started going and going and just built my name up for being this guy that had the camera and taking photos and trying to make everybody feel special.
Okay. So I got you enjoy making people feel special. What is it you enjoy about taking pictures?
Now I really love just the energy, especially from a live show. Like, the energy, like, I feel that I just have this knack of just capturing, like, the raw emotion of what the performer is, trying to convey. Like, I think that's one of my specialties, and that's what I really, really love doing. And now that, besides that, that's like personal projects. Like, I love doing like weird shit where, putting Elmo fucking mascot heads on women and shooting, whatever the fuck I like, But as far as music concerned, just the energy, man. The energy is everything.
Did that make I'm going to guess. I guess this is half question, half statement. Did it make working at the cubicle job or pharmaceutical job bearable?
Oh, yeah, it was
now
that you had
this. There's no cubicle?
Huh? No, there was a cubicle.
Okay.
Thank
Did
God
it make that job more bearable knowing that you had this other thing?
It was the opposite. It made it less bearable because I got very, very cocky.
Okay.
Cocky to the point where I thought that I was going to be this amazing photographer without putting in all the hard work.
Okay.
I was getting jobs here and there sparingly. Nothing super high paying or anything like that. Like, my job was sustaining me. It was paying my rent. It was doing everything for me. But I got this bright idea to quit my job instead of getting fired and collecting unemployment. Like, I literally walked out like I was the man and never came back. And I was like, fuck this job. And like, I told my one friend at the job, I was like, yo, I'm out. Yeah. He was like, you leaving? You going for lunch? I was like, no.
Long lunch.
I'm going for lunch for a while. And it was the best / worst decision that I ever made in my life because it was a summer. I think I probably got like 2 jobs in the summer. And I had to get another real job. Yeah. And then I got this real job. It was great because it was working from 12 to 8 p.m. and it fit my lifestyle. I can get out at 8 p.m., still go out at night, go to shows every day, wake up at a good time that I like to wake up and continue on. And I did that for 3 more years.
Yeah. And at that point, you were able to just do the photography.
Yeah, and after that job, I figured out, like, oh, yeah, let me get fired and get unemployment and then still work. And I could still, like, really push hard and not get paid for going to shows and all this, but still, I still have a check coming in. I have time to shoot during the day and still do all these things. So, yeah, worked out.
Cool. So what do you would consider a Mel D Cole picture? Like, can you describe your style? Or?
Describe my style? Well, I think there's a few different styles, but if you're talking about music, live music in particular, definitely black and white. I just love black and white. I chose to shoot black and white maybe like a fourth into my career of shooting. I figured out that was a way to stand out from everyone else because at that time, there wasn't anyone that I knew of that was doing black and white party photos, doing black and white concert photos consistently. So I was doing that, and also like if I describe one of my photos, like a lot of energy, like a lot of energy. Like one photo that comes to mind is this Travis Scott photo that I took of him in Atlanta, and he's just going ham on stage, and he has a water bottle, and I just literally caught him where he's leaning back with the water bottle and throwing it, like tossing water into the crowd, and it's a stream of water. And I just caught it at the right moment, and you can just see it all going in. And to me, that's like one of my favorite photos. Just energy. It's energy all around. You can see his face. He's just like, it's just, angry but happy. But, all these different emotions are probably going through his head. And I'm just sitting there like, yes, snap, 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 snap. Yes. Hoping that I get lucky and get this stream because, lo and behold, you're not. It's hard, it's dark, and most hip hop shows are the horrible lighting, so you're not switching up settings and ISO and all that shit. You're just shooting. Oh yeah,
like in that moment.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's all for me. It's all about the moment, and it's for me. Like seriously, it's nothing special with live concerts for me besides like capturing the moment, which is, I guess, the most special thing. Yeah, but I feel like it's. Not everyone could do it, but I don't think, and I think people can do it, but they just, they think about concerts differently. I think about, like, I want, like, my one of my main goals after shooting, I use Nas as an example. Because Nas is, super smooth and laid back, and it's like, I just want to get this energetic shot of him. And I wound up getting one of him, and he's not like, going ham in the mic, but he wound up doing something like, laughing or something, and it looks like he's like, like putting on some energy. And to me, it's like one of my favorite photos of him.
You caught that.
Right? And that's like a lot of people wouldn't know, but think he's going ham on the mic. No, he's like laughing or some shit. But
create that illusion.
Yeah, the illusion. The perception is everything. Sometimes when it comes to photos. So.
Where would you like to take things, or how do you see yourself going, or?
How do I see myself going? Right now, booking a hell of a lot more like gigs with labels. I want some of that Jonathan Mannion money. Shouts to Mannion, but shit, I would love to shoot some album covers, and I would love to do, just work with labels more, and because the live stuff is always going to be there, but the live stuff is not the money maker. And I love shooting the live stuff, so that's like a big problem. Okay. I love to own a studio one day. Love to do a big giant exhibition. All those those typical things, like how a photographer's career goes.
And the best place for people to check out your stuff is the Village Slum?
VillageSlum.com, and that's my blog I guess, and my portfolio, meldcole.com.
Okay.
That's where you get to see all my favorite stuff.
Okay. We'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah. Instagram.
Okay. Cool, man. Great. Good job.
Thank you.
Good. I wish the best for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And there you have it, my wonderful conversation with Mel D. Cole here on Talk Music Talk. Again, check him out online at meldcole.com or on his blog, villageslum.com. That's villageslum.com. Hello there. Welcome to episode 118 of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice. I am your podcasting host. For the first-time listener, Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people who are connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, emerging, established, singers, songwriters, musicians, music therapists, music journalists. And on episode 118, I had the wonderful, wonderful pleasure of speaking to Half Waif. It is the solo project of Nandi Rose Plunkett. She is a singer, songwriter, musician, producer, and she has made, in my opinion, the first great album of 2017. It's called Forma. It is a 6-song EP, and it is absolutely stunning. Follows up on 2 previous EPs and 2 albums, including 2016's Probable Deaths, which I also recommend that. We talk about a lot in our conversation. We talk about growing up in Williamstown, Massachusetts, based in New York now. We go into what it was like growing up there. Her first instrument was a piano. Eventually, she attended Kent State for music. We also talk about her songwriting process from her first band when she was 9 years old to now when she has learned to be more direct in her lyrics and revealing more of herself in her music. We also go into her influences, the making of Forma, and why she calls her music mood ring pop. After this great conversation, you will hear 2 songs from Forma. The first single, which is Frostburn, and then Night Heat, 2 of my favorite songs from Forma, right after the conversation. But here it is, without further ado, my interview with Nandi Rose Plunkett, Half Waif. Enjoy. You went to a writing retreat in Massachusetts?
Yes, it was self-imposed writing exile.
Well, did you need this?
Yeah, I felt like I needed it. Really what I was trying to do was kind of recreate this space that I had when I was growing up, which was I would write in the living room in my childhood home, and I was alone, and I was kind of a lonely kid, but my songs really came from this place of solitude, and I knew who I was in that space. Like I understood the inner me because everything else was stillness and quiet. And fast forward years later, I'm very happy to say that I'm in a strong partnership, and I live with my partner, and I've been living in Brooklyn, surrounded by lots of people and excitement. But as a result, I was noticing this part of me kind of shrinking and disappearing, and I really wanted to get back in touch with who she was and the way that she wrote and the way that she thought about the world. So, yeah, I kind of forced myself out of the city and away from home. It was only a week, but even that was significant. And kind of what I realized was I can't really recreate that. That part of me has evolved and developed, as it should, but I don't write from the same place anymore. My influences have changed, and, I really honor and cherish that younger self that developed in that place of solitude, but I've sort of moved on from that. So while I did write a lot up there, it wasn't, it didn't feel like recapturing anything. It felt like really the next step.
Did you have like half stuff written or ideas that you were taking with you, or just from scratch?
Nothing really that I took with me. It's interesting though, by the end of the week, I was kind of plagued with self-doubt. I felt like I hadn't written anything. I was frustrated that I wasn't able to pull from solitude the way that I used to. I was frustrated that I just didn't feel like I knew what my voice was anymore. Yeah. And I left, kind of feeling defeated in some ways. I was also really scared being alone in the woods, even though I'm a country girl. Like, I should know what that feels like, and I should be fine with it. But I was really scared sleeping alone at night. It was very dark. It was quiet. And so ultimately I left this week feeling pretty disheartened. However, after another month or so, I was reviewing bits and pieces that I'd written and realized that I actually had a lot of things that I was excited about. And half of the songs that are on the EP were totally written up there. And a lot of the original sounds from those like demos that were written up there made it to the final recording. So I guess that says a lot about how we hold these sort of feelings of self-doubt. And ultimately, they're not correct.
We were the worst judge of our progress.
I mean, yeah, we're all pretty hard on ourselves. I think I especially am.
What do you write on? Like, what do you take with you to go there?
So I used to write really simply with just a piano. And as I said, that I was trying to get back to that space. I brought my Nord, my keyboard, which has really good digital piano sounds, but also some other synth sounds. But the way that I'm writing now is kind of a combination of like an instrument, like the keyboard and the computer. So I brought my laptop and I used to record on Logic, but I use Ableton mostly now. I'm kind of exploring that. So it's a combination of starting just on a piano or keyboard sound and then bringing in beats and other arrangements to help push it forward.
That's nice. And that was the first time you've ever done the retreat?
Yeah, it was.
Are you around other artists, or you like kind of separated from each other?
I was just totally by myself. It was something just I created. I would love to do a more formalized kind of retreat where you're like on a property and maybe have a little bit of guidance. Maybe have some sort of feedback, so I'm not totally in my head thinking that I'm sucking at everything I'm writing. Or just some sort of external stimulus I think might be good for me. But yeah, this was the first one that I've done, and it really turned out to be so fruitful that I would love to try it again. I'm actually in a period of being alone right now. I'm just for 2 weeks. I'm without my band, so I've been made a little setup for myself in the basement, and I've become a creature of darkness. Make a lot of cups of tea and just like descend into the dark basement and see what comes out. It's a lot of dark sounds, actually.
That sounds good. I like dark. But you're from Massachusetts, right?
I am.
So how far is this retreat from where you grew up?
This place where I went was about an hour south of where I grew up, in the same county though, in Berkshire County. And my mom lives in South Berkshire County now, and my dad's in the town where I grew up in Williamstown.
And what was that like?
Oh, man.
I've never been.
It's beautiful. You should go. And Western Mass is really something special. It's got a lot of kind of cultural and artistic history. There's a lot of famous writers lived there, and they have these houses. Like there's the Edith Wharton house and the Herman Melville house. So there are a lot of properties that these famous writers and painters lived in and got a lot of inspiration from the surroundings. So that should tell you something about it. It's totally picturesque and beautiful. I loved growing up in Williamstown. It's a really small town, but it has Williams College, and the Clark Art Institute is this sort of famous museum, and now Mass MoCA is the Contemporary Art Museum in the next town. So there's a lot of cultural offerings, but there's no major city. It's like 3.5 hours from New York, 3 hours from Boston, 5 hours from Montreal. So it's really nestled in this little pocket. So I felt like I was, a very small town girl, but had my sights set on something bigger. But I loved it. I spent a lot of time alone growing up.
Your only child?
I have an older sister who's 6 years older.
Okay, so kind of...
Yeah, I actually read that if you have a sibling who's 6 years different, you sort of grow up as an only child. I don't know. That resonated with me. I adore my sister, but I definitely had a lot of alone time growing up, and I just created whole worlds that I would play in for hours. My mom says she would look out the window and I would just be in the backyard talking to myself. I had all these characters that I would pretend to be, and so my imagination was really running wild a lot, and I think that was like a big impetus for me to write. I was writing songs and poetry from a really young age.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Were you playing an instrument early?
Yeah, I started piano when I was 6.
Okay.
Classical piano. And singing was something I did forever, but started more formally taking lessons when I was 13.
Okay. And did you like the piano as soon as you started? Did you grow to learn it?
You know,
grow to love it?
I didn't like the piano lessons. Yeah. I feel like probably that's a common theme, right? Does anyone like it? I never practiced. But really early on, I remember just starting to write songs on the piano and realizing that I could use it as a tool to express ideas that otherwise I was just, singing. So once I realized the potential of the piano beyond playing, classical Suzuki exercises, I was really excited, and it definitely opened this whole world for me. And a lot of fond memories of just sitting at my piano, which faced this picture window in our living room, and across the street through the window is the cemetery. Sounds really bleak and morbid, but there was something really beautiful about creating in this room that looked out onto this cemetery. That it was this beautiful cycle, I think, of creation and death, and it was all just wrapped up in one thing.
Yeah. What was the young you writing about?
Okay, so my first band I had when I was 9.
Okay.
And
good start, right?
Yeah. And we were studying ancient Egypt at the time, so we were called Pharaoh.
Okay.
And all of our songs were either about ancient Egypt or about makeup. We were in sort of a Valley Girl phase. It was also the Spice Girls were really big in 3rd grade, and when we were in 3rd grade, and so the songs were pretty silly. But as I reached middle school, I wrote a lot about being lonely.
Okay.
I really I wanted a boyfriend. I wanted more friends. I wanted to feel like I belonged to something bigger than myself. But as a lot of kids are, I was pretty awkward and felt like I could really express it more in song than I could just talking to people about it. And it was also around that time that my parents divorced. They separated when I was 14, and that was a really important way for me to process that. The summer that they separated, I didn't tell anyone.
Really?
I did have friends. I had a few friends, but I didn't tell my best friend. I just didn't really know how to talk about it. But
it was so traumatic.
It was really traumatic. It's a weird age, 14, to have that happen. And a few weeks after they told me they were separating, I went to a summer camp in Putney, Vermont, and I was studying songwriting there. And so I was writing a lot about what happened. And for the final concert, all the parents came. My parents came up and they were in the audience, and I played this really intense song called From a Broken House. And my parents...
Not a metaphor.
Yeah, right. The chorus was, I will run from this broken house, pay no attention to your little mouse, which is just so sad. And my parents were in the audience, and they told me later that they're like, we're always so proud of you. Yeah. But that was one moment when we felt really sad and bad, because people were turning around and looking at them, but I really needed to do it, and to their credit, they were always very supportive of me writing about whatever I needed to express,
even if they're the subject of it. Right?
Yeah, and interestingly, I never, after that first kind of grappling, I never really wrote about it again, and it's been something that's been hard for me to address in songs until the Forma EP. Returning to the area where I grew up for this writing retreat was important for me to kind of confront some of those old feelings of sadness and loss. And so there's a line in the song Frostburn that was like, oh my God, how does the song go? I was 14 when I had to learn what it means to be an adult. Okay. It wasn't my fault. And it's something that I'm looking to do more in my music moving forward, is being a little bit more direct with the lyrics, because something I did right when I started writing songs and, when I was younger, but over the years I kind of learned to hide myself even from myself with the lyrics, and I wrote more in poetry or metaphor, and I'm kind of excited to go back to that place of staring those feelings head on and really talking about them in terms that people can understand more readily.
As opposed to maybe she means this, I'm not sure.
Which is nice too, and I don't want to, I'm not saying I want to do none of that, but I think there's room to have a mix of both, some more interpretive lyrics and some that maybe connect a little bit more clearly.
When you look back on that, does it seem surprising like that they separated?
Not at all. It wasn't even surprising at the time. Okay. It was like I knew it was coming, and I knew even then that it needed to happen, but I love family. I've always been a big family person. It means so much to me. And families are hard and continues to be, pretty difficult. But I think you find ways to make new families. And when I did finally find that group of friends that really made me feel like I belong, that was a new family for me. And now my bandmates, like I really feel like I'm a part of this new tribe of people, and we're traveling the world together, and I'm spending holidays with them, and that's it's pretty nice. It's a nice reminder that we can create those realities for ourselves. And
then also that one family, you can't necessarily get everything you need.
Right.
From one family, you can have all these other families.
That's a really good point. And I feel lucky that I'm able to get different things from my different families.
It doesn't put the burden on one family.
Right. No, totally.
Did you, were you looking at a career in music? Did you know that in high school? Or what you wanted to do? I
wanted to be on Broadway, actually. That was, in high school, I was thinking about going to performing arts school. I wanted to be on Broadway. I was, of course, writing songs as well, but I wrote musicals, and I loved acting, and I loved playing characters. Yeah. And that's something that I kind of miss in playing my own music all the time, is that I'm just so transparently me, and that can be hard and get old. So last week I played at the Indie Pop Prom in Brooklyn, and part of the premise was that you would wear prom attire, and I wore my old prom dress. Okay. And playing on stage in a prom dress made me feel like I was a different character and gave me a lot of confidence and strength. So I'm thinking about doing that more. But anyways, I always wanted to be a performer, but it was when I went to college at Kenyon College in Ohio that I started focusing more on like composition and songwriting, and then I was like, I have to give this a go. I got to give it a shot. And there have been many times in the past 6 years when I've wanted to give up. Sometimes I still want to give up.
What keeps you not giving up?
That's such a good question. I ask myself that all the time. Well, this is what I know and love. This is the way that I most clearly connect to myself. This is how I know me. And this is the most grounding thing in my life. This connects me with my existence, with the planet, with people. I can't imagine separating myself from that, even when it gets hard and bleak and frustrating. There's always this like innate core that really roots through my whole being and keeps me going.
Yeah. And what would you be without it? Like
I have no idea.
That's a far worse
sometimes
premise.
I fantasize about being a florist. think that I really love flowers, and not that I've ever like done anything with flowers, nice. But I love flowers. I think I just have this idea in my head that I would really enjoy that. Okay. So maybe down the line I'll find myself running a flower shop. You might find me in upstate New York with a flower shop someday. Yeah, halfway flowers. I like that.
So were you a kid who knew like all the Broadway shows and had all the cast albums?
Oh my gosh, I was so annoying. I just singing Rent all the time and Les Mis. I had, my group of musical theater friends, and that's pretty much all we did. I also have this really kind of sweet and sad memory of being in high school. I mean, it's no wonder I didn't have a lot of friends, but in high school, during lunch, I would bring my lunch, and then I would go into the auditorium. And, no one's in there. It's all dark. Go into the auditorium, and I would turn on the stage lights, and I would sit at the piano. And I remember being in a big Phantom of the Opera phase, and I had a book of Phantom of the Opera songs, and I would just sit in the auditorium by myself at lunch and play Phantom of the Opera songs.
As if you were.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know why more people weren't drawn to that.
Oh my gosh, I'm just remembering it all now. It was so weird that I did that, but I guess that was part of my journey to get to where I am today.
So when you go to Kent, what did you major in?
I majored in music.
Okay.
Yeah. I had 2 years to figure out a major, but I declared music within the first semester because I was like, who am I kidding? This is the thing that I love to do. But it was great. I studied music theory and composition, and was really exposed to all sorts of new kinds of music that I didn't really know before, and got more into like experimental types of sounds and composition, and really put me on sort of a new track with my songwriting. Who
were some of your like influences, or what you were listening to besides Broadway cast albums?
Well, when I was younger, in middle school, when I really started songwriting, that's when I discovered Tori Amos, and she was my gosh, she was amazing, and piano prodigy. I wanted to be just like her. But she was also in like a metal band in the 80s. I like read her biography. I can't remember. But I just remember seeing this picture of her with like crazy big hair and big makeup. I was like, she's so cool. Was it Why Tori
Can't Read or something?
Oh,
like
yeah.
That? Was that it?
Or was that an album?
Tori Can't, or Tori the title?
Yeah.
And I think it was a Y, the letter Y or something.
She's so cool, right?
I love her.
Like just... very like experimental in the way that she approached like piano balladry, which is really cool. So she was a big influence on me growing up. Joni Mitchell, definitely. I mean, Blue, of course, is such an inspiring album, and how she uses her voice, just the timbre of it and the texture of it is really amazing and inspiring. And then in college, I was studying more, I got really into 20th century composition, kind of contemporary classical music, starting with the turn of the century with Debussy, and then Stravinsky, and then a little bit later you had Schoenberg, Berg, and Webern, all very weird and interesting serialist music. And then Steve Reich and John Cage, and that school, Philip Glass. Those are all really inspiring names for me. And now my ear is really to the ground of who's writing now and what's coming out, because I'm constantly trying to discover new ideas. I don't look to the past that much, actually. I'm really excited by what people are writing today, and I mean, there's a lot of it. There's a whole Spotify now.
Yes, more than ever.
You can get lost in it forever. But it's really so exciting to me when I come across someone new. And what's also really exciting is to be in this place where I feel like a lot of people I'm inspired by are people I know and people I'm meeting, and a lot of folks from New York, from this area. That's it's really cool to be learning from your peers, and And that's been kind of a new thing in the past couple of years for me.
What did the Stravinsky and the composers, what did they bring to your music songwriting?
I think for me, a lot of it was, with Debussy, one of his big things, Debussy and Ravel came from the Impressionist school of composition. And their big thing was about using chords as tone color.
Okay.
So essentially creating these kind of swaths of tone, thinking about chords as colors. And that's something that I think about a lot when I'm writing is wanting to inject the tonal landscape with lots of different colors.
Okay.
Like I want it to feel colorful and to feel vivid. And so I think that's something I learned from them. Stravinsky, he later, post World War I, kind of turned to neoclassicism and kind of looked back to a little bit more lighter Mozart-esque styles. But before the war, he pioneered the style of primitivism. Okay. And that's what you hear, like the Firebird, Rite of Spring. Okay. And that's a little bit like more jarring sounds. And kind of those two ideas are things that I try to think about, having these more kind of fluid, lush soundscapes interjected with more harsh and aggressive sounds. It's kind of a mixture of anger and inner reflection. Okay. So these kind of outbursts that are outward, and then these more kind of somber inner reflections.
Okay. And is the challenge, or some would say opportunity, to how do you bring that to modern pop music in which you're songwriting?
Yeah, well, for me, I've always loved pop music. Like I was talking about Spice Girls in third grade. I loved Spice Girls. And No Doubt, in second grade, I asked my mom if I could go to a No Doubt concert, and she said no, but I loved Gwen Stefani. I've always loved pop music. I love a good hook, and I love writing like vocal melodies that are I try to write vocal melodies that are concise and, that they're accessible and that you can sing them back. So kind of melding that and a really clear songwriting structure of, verse and a chorus, melding that with what are for me more classical kind of arrangements and instrumentation. That's how I hope to kind of bring the two together. Okay. So, if you take away the instruments and the production, maybe at the very core of it is a really simple pop song, but when you start bringing in the layers and the different instruments, it creates something a little bit more lush and experimental and interesting.
And when you have that pop hook, the strong pop hooks, you can bring people in. Whatever you do with those pop hooks, you can bring people in anyway. Even with the complexity of the music. Right.
And that's something I've sort of gone back and forth on over the years. Is I think there was a time a few years ago when I was really looking to write music that you had to be an active listener to enjoy. I wanted to make music for other musicians, which sounds really limiting, but I think right after college, that was what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to write music that people will listen to the way that I listen to music. And I'm a musician, so I listen to it in a very specific way. And I wanted to recreate that feeling for other people. Of course, saying it now, that's totally delusional and really exclusive. So I don't know why I ever wanted to do that. But I think I retained some of the impulses to make the music interesting enough that you have to listen to it actively. Like I do want listeners to engage with it, but I also definitely don't want to exclude anyone or make them feel like I'm trying to speak a language that they can never understand or that I don't want them to understand, or that you have to belong to a certain club to understand. And I think that's where that interplay between more pop melodies and song structures comes in to make it a little bit more accessible, but also exciting.
Yeah, and why can't you have both?
Right, exactly. I've taken to calling this music mood ring pop, and that's because it's both a mood ring in that it's moody. It covers a wide range of emotions and human experiences, but it's also a ring pop because it's kind of playful and I don't want it to take itself too seriously. You know, these can also be fun songs. So it's a mood ring and it's a ring pop.
Okay. All at once.
Yeah, you get them both.
And after so you graduate, how far off are you from the Half Waif project?
After graduation?
Yeah. Or is that your first recorded music?
Yeah. So I graduated in 2011 and Half Waif was born that year, kind of in the fall. I had it was actually my 5-year anniversary of my first show a couple days ago.
Okay. Congrats.
Facebook told me, thank you. It was, it was February 26th, 2012 that I had my first show. Okay. I played solo and...
Were you scared?
I was terrified. It was at Pete's Candy Store in Brooklyn. And there were like 5 or 6 people there. It was like my parents and a couple of friends. I was terrified, but I had so much fun. I remember for me, those songs, I described them that night at the show as each song was a room in a house and kind of trying to create like sonic architecture so that you found yourself feeling like you were in different rooms. Okay. And that concept still resonates with me today, trying to create spaces that envelop you and that house you and ultimately make you feel safe in some way.
And did you feel you had accomplished that with the early recordings?
Yeah. The recording process for me has really been a journey, and I think that you can hear it when you listen back to so I've put out 2 EPs now and 2 full-length albums. Okay. This is sort of a side comment, but it'll come back around. I think that a lot of the industry these days really prioritizes newness and youngness. I guess that's not anything new. I think that the industry probably always has, but always looking for the next big thing. And because people can use the internet now and self-release much more easily, I think you can have kind of a big back catalog before you get picked up, by a label or by a kind of more widespread listenership. And I think some people kind of look down on that, which doesn't really make sense to me because, as I said, I really feel like you can hear how this project has evolved from 2012 or 2013 when I put out my first EP. And sometimes it can be embarrassing, and I listen back like, oh gosh, I put that out. But I'm really proud that, I've been writing a lot and teaching myself production, and I'm always excited to share new music. So I've released a lot of material, and the Forma EP is the first thing we've put out on a label. But there is a back catalog there, and I think you can hear how the project has shifted and hopefully sounds more refined. Constantly trying to come towards this point of figuring out what I sound like, but I don't think I'll ever get there because I'm always changing. Yeah, and that's part of the fun of this journey that I'm on.
Is the growth from the constant touring and constant songwriting?
Is the what?
The growth from album to album.
It's from getting more adept at the technology side of it. It's from honing this craft of songwriting and trying to come up with better ways of expressing, narrative and lyrical ideas and sonic arrangements. It's from listening a lot, listening to a lot of new music, seeing a lot of live shows, and having conversations with my musician friends and my songwriter friends about what it means to be an effective storyteller.
Yeah. And did you have an intention for Forma?
Did I have an intention?
Yes.
Yes. My intention for Forma was to do as much myself as I could. In the past, I've worked with some really wonderful producers, my good friends Devin Greenwood and Zubin Hensler, and I learned a ton from them. But I've always recorded these demos on my own, and I've had a few people over the years say, like, there's something really you about these, and, you know, you should consider releasing them. And they never felt polished enough to me. But I got to the point with this EP where I thought, hey, you know what? I want to put something out in the world that does feel like it's me, and it's not polished. It's rough. The vocals were recorded on a pretty bad microphone and was recorded in my apartment, but it has a certain vibe to it that feels really true to who I was when I was recording it and writing it. So I'm really happy with how that turned out.
I just interviewed Amy Leon. I don't know if you heard her.
No.
Great product. I interviewed her yesterday. She was saying the same thing pretty much. Is that how that moment, the voice may crack. It may be, it may not be perfect, and like, what is perfect anyway, but it's real and authentic. And then next time she sings a song, it may be different. And
I honestly find that is more exciting for a listener. I used to want it to sound like I was a classically trained singer. Okay. You know, I was like, okay, I know how to sing. I can get this pitch right. I can get the timbre right. And now it's like, I want it to sound like I'm a human. Like, I want it to sound like I'm recording this in the moment and I'm feeling every word that I'm singing. And, you know, I still want it to sound, you know, a certain amount of refined or like, presentable. But it's so much more exciting to listen to something that feels like it has character and to feel like you can get to know the artist through the way that their voice sounds.
Yeah. And what made you decide to go with a label for this release?
Well, I actually, so another intention I had for Forma was to just put it on the internet and have no fanfare. I had come off of, you know, self-releasing 2 full lengths and was really proud of those albums, but you know, it's hard playing the PR game and trying to get people to listen. And I was like, ultimately, I just want the music to be out there. And if I just put it online and kind of step back, I can feel proud of it. People can listen if they want, and I can move on to the next project. So that was the plan. And then when I was halfway through recording Forma, Cassine got in touch, and they liked the last album, and they were curious to hear the new EP. So we met them. They're wonderful, wonderful people, love their aesthetic and their vibe and their vision, and felt like, okay, maybe this can, you know, have a little bit more push behind it. And it's really nice to work with a team after just doing it, you know, on our own for a few years. It feels really good to have, you know, it's that feeling of belonging that I was talking about. You know, I feel like I found another family.
That's excellent. And where are they based at?
They're based in Brooklyn.
Okay, cool. And you are going on like a huge, long tour.
Yes.
Till August, is that?
No, not till August. It's just till April. Okay. And then we've got some more summer dates. But we are about to leave next week. We're going to Savannah Stopover Festival in Georgia, and then making our way to South by Southwest. And we'll be doing a few shows there. And then we're doing like a headline tour in the Midwest and East Coast. Okay. Kind of promoting Forma and playing some of those songs live. And really excited to get to play for new audiences. And
you like to tour?
People. I do. It's what I do most of the time now between Half Waif and the other project that we all play in called Pine Grove. We are on the road most of the year. We left Brooklyn, we left our jobs, and now this is our life. I love the adventure of it. I love seeing new places. We were just in Europe with Half Waif, and that was our first time touring there. We're about to go to Alaska with Pine Grove. So it's really incredible that we get to see the world in this way. it's hard not having a home. As I said, I'm very like family oriented and I'm very home oriented. I'm a Capricorn. I'm a homebody. I love creating cozy spaces and being in my slippers all day. And that's just, not something I can do when I'm on tour all the time. Although I do bring my slippers now with me. So that's a little
bring
piece of
some home with you.
Yeah. So I'm pretty nomadic right now, and that can be challenging in some ways, but I'm just trying to fully embrace it as this crazy time in my life, and I'm throwing everything into it.
Yeah. And it's a gorgeous album. I just want to tell you that.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you like it.
Yeah. And it's like this is why people are like, well, what does it take to be on the show? I'm like, well, I have to like the music. So if I'm excited about the music, it makes it even more exciting to do the interview.
That's great.
Yeah. Yes. I wish you like the best with
Thank you
the project,
so much, boys.
And best place for people to keep up online with you, get the album.
Yeah, we have halfwave.bandcamp.com is where the music's at, and then we have our Facebook page, and then we have our website, which is www.half-wave.com. I used to have halfwave.com, and then I forgot to renew it, and then this like Japanese pill company took it over.
Right.
So don't go to halfwave.com, go to half-wave.com.
Okay, so there's a pill called Half-Wave?
I don't know. They took it over. I don't know what happened. I'm so ashamed.
I can't even imagine what that pill, if it is a pill, what it might do.
Yeah, I can't read it because it's in Japanese. But.
Okay, so go to half-wave.com.
That's right.
We don't know where that will take you. Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It was wonderful.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
Frost burns over the river, and I am living here to see it. I had a dream and I wasn't me, and I was okay with that. Why do you occupy all of my roads?
there you have it. 2 amazing songs from Half Waif, Night Heat. Before that, Frost Burn. Amazing songs from an amazing album, Forma. I hope you enjoyed the music. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Nandi. You have to own Forma. You can get it on Bandcamp at halfwaif.bandcamp.com. I will spell that for you, HALFWAIF. And make sure you go quick because there's a limited edition vinyl. Gorgeous vinyl packaging. The vinyl is translucent, and I think this is the color, marigold. Correct me if I'm wrong, but marigold. Gorgeous packaging. You get the whole beautiful vinyl experience with lyrics, gorgeous photo, the whole kit and caboodle. And I want to shout out the other members of Half Waif who perform live with Nandi, Zach Levine on drums and electronic percussion, and Adon Carlo on electric bass. I am online several places, several ways. TalkMusicTalk.com for more information on this very podcast. My personal website is thisisboice.com for more information on my music that I make and the novels that I write. If you are on Instagram, please follow me at thisisboice, and you get to see pictures of all of my amazing guests. Don't forget your call to action. Download the Talk Music Talk app. It is free for Android and iPhone, wherever you get your apps. Or if you prefer, you can subscribe on iTunes or Google Play. And if you are on iTunes, it is especially important if you leave a rating and or review to help spread the word about the show. You can also find Talk Music Talk on Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn, and loads of other places. And once you download or subscribe, I have a back catalog suggestion for you. Episode number 46 with Roni's Insomnia. It is the solo project of Roni Korkos. If you love the music of Half Waif, you will love the music of Roni's Insomnia. You will get to hear some music in this conversation, in that episode. Again, that's episode 46 with Roni's Insomnia. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, and there will be a next time. This one's for you, Liz. Hello there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice, and this is my podcast that you are listening to. If this happens to be your very first time checking it out, Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres and different backgrounds, both established and emerging, singers, songwriters, music therapists, music journalists. And on this new episode, I am so excited about it. I had the pleasure of speaking to indie singer-songwriter Rue Snider. He is on the eve of his 3rd full-length album coming out on July 27th. It is entitled City Living. I have heard it. It is great. He is based in Brooklyn, like myself. Also, we share the fact that we are both from the Pittsburgh area. We talk about that in the interview. One of my favorite conversations. What can I say about Rue? Such a nice guy with an interesting life story. It's very inspiring. He goes from how he got better as an artist to the sacrifices he's made to live his dream of making music. He also talks about getting sober, the making of his music, of City Living. Great conversation. After it, you will hear 2 songs from the new album, not even out yet. Don't Lose Heart. Single is out now, and you are going to hear the TMT premiere of Tripping on a Raft with Girls right after the conversation. One of my favorite songs, Tripping on a Raft with Girls. And before we get to the interview, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out to my Strand event here in New York City. It was with the 33 and a third authors, the series of books that look like mini CDs. That was on July 20th. So thanks to everyone for coming out to the live podcast. I will be airing that on Talk Music Talk, the podcast that you are listening to, coming very, very soon. But here it is, without further ado, my conversation with Rue Snider. Enjoy. Before we started recording, we were talking about pop music and somehow if it's too melodic, right? If it's, or people feeling...
Yeah, I feel like there's this
to own that up, right?
Yeah. It's like it's... like it's shameful somehow to love a good melody, and I'm just never going to feel that way.
Yes, which leads me to on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Today you posted one of my favorite artists, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel,
who probably gets that, like he's too pop, too and he has not entered hipsterdom.
I mean, like if I could write one song in my life that's as good as like Billy Joel's worst song. You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know. I don't understand why people are opposed to Billy Joel. I don't know why they think it's weird. I got to see him at Madison Square Garden in January because he's doing like one show a month. It's like the 40th. You saw it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little weird. Mm-hmm. I felt like he should have been eating a bowl of spaghetti on stage. Like it would have been appropriate. Like I was just like, this is a little bit like it was just that kind of experience. Like at one point, Foreigner came out, and like Foreigner were playing. They were like the special guest, and he was just kind of like standing there dancing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if Billy Joel was eating a bowl of spaghetti while Foreigner was playing at Madison Square Garden in the middle of his set, it would make perfect sense. Okay. So the show was a little weird for me.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Was that your first time seeing it?
It was the first time. I mean, let's be honest, it's the only time. On the way there. Mm-hmm. I was in the subway and I was like, I'm going to go to this thing and I'm going to love this concert so goddamn much that I'm going to have to go see Billy Joel every month. And
super
for the rest of my life. And after the show, I was like, no, I think that I'm really glad I went. I think it's just one. But he played Vienna and like, I just think that's the best Billy Joel song ever.
See, I wish I would have seen him. I saw him like a couple months into it.
Yeah.
And I think now...
like years ago. Like
and he was trying to spin like the microphone stand and all that.
Oh, he's still doing that shit.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's weird. Like the stage rotates.
Yeah.
And at first you're so like enamored. It's like, that's Billy Joel. Mm-hmm. And I would be like watching him. And then you talk to your friend, you clap. You're looking around and there's the monitors. I'm looking at the monitors. I'm looking at the stage. And then I'm like... Wait, wasn't he facing the other way? So it was about 7 songs in before I realized, they're flipping the piano like really every song. Super weird.
Slow revolution.
Yeah, that kind of. And then when he gets up and he's like about to bust out of the suit and he's playing with the microphone, it's weird.
Yeah. Did he do a deep set? Because when I saw him, he like did a lot of like deep album cuts.
He did, but it was. Yes. I mean, he's only got 12 records.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that many songs, right?
No. But there were some people who were like, okay, I want to hear Only the Good Die Young. Like, you could tell there were people not into...
I don't have time for those kind of people.
Yeah, me neither.
I just can't.
Yeah. So, when did you get into, like, really melodic, like Billy Joel, that type of thing?
I mean, I think I
grew up... of pop.
Well, I grew up in a household where we had records, right? But it was weird because, like... my mom grew up listening to 45s. I've found these 45s. I put them in like real sleeves because they were all like stuck together.
Yeah.
And, like, the things. It's like, Mom, we got to deal with this. And she was like, that's cool. But we had lots of records growing up. But like, my parents didn't really buy records. You know what I mean? Like, there were the records that were there.
Okay.
And there were things like Air Supply's Greatest Hits. I mean, that was a big one. I remember like things like by Elvis Presley and stuff like that. Really melodic music. So I grew up listening to that stuff, and like it never occurred to me that Air Supply was cheesy. And to this day, I adore Air Supply. I mean, like Making Love Out of Nothing at All is like I just can't. I mean, that's like, I mean, like I quit drinking. I used to be a big drinker. I mean, I would like shut the lights off and like have like a half a bottle of whiskey and like sit on the floor in a dark room and listen to Making Love Out of Nothing at All over and over and just cry. Like, to me, it's like beautiful and romantic and sad. And people were like, "What the fuck?" But I don't know. So I love that kind of like big melodies. I mean, I love like early U2 and that kind of stuff. I mean, R.E.M. is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
I just, like you let the singer-songwriter thing, people with ideas and stuff to say and words that matter, but also like, singing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not literature. You know what I mean? We're not writing books. So I've always loved melodic music.
Yeah. When did you start writing stuff and playing an instrument? When did you start playing an instrument?
My dad was an elementary school music teacher.
Okay. So early?
Yeah. So I was like playing. I mean, there were like cello. I took cello at school. My dad was a trumpet player, so I took like trumpet lessons and cello lessons and piano lessons and eventually voice lessons. But I didn't. You resist that stuff when you're a kid. I was like, I don't want to play piano. I don't know why. I can't play piano now. Like I resisted music theory. I resisted all the stuff. Yeah. So that was part of my life, but it was just kind of like the kid who's like forced to play baseball. I was like, I don't want to play baseball, Dad. You know, I don't know why.
Yeah. Did you not want to play at all, or did you just want to be able to skip to proficiency where you could make music that you heard?
You know, I don't know what it was. I think it was just like I didn't want to be told what to do.
Okay.
But it was a good thing that it was part of my life, and I was always encouraged. My family was always very supportive, maybe to a fault. I don't know, because like I'm a grown-ass man, like playing rock and roll music. It's cool though, but they're very supportive, and so I always believed that I could do something that wasn't conventional. Right? I never felt pressure to be a doctor or whatever, which I think is great. You know, I have friends that are doctors and lawyers and all these things. Those are important professions.
They save lives.
They're just like, it's just like so boring to me. Yeah. I mean, so I'm really glad that I had that support, and I knew that growing up. And I always I remember like mowing the grass, my neighbor's grass when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something, and like coming up with lyrics and like singing songs. But it was never a real thing. I mean, it was just like, there were like notebooks of things, but it was all kind of nonsense. So it wasn't until much later that I started taking music very seriously. It's funny because there are so many people now writing songs who are really young that I have deep respect for. It's a guy named Sammy Brew out of Utah. I think he's like 15 or 16 years. Have you heard this guy?
No.
He's fantastic. Writing really honest songs from his perspective, you know, like, and they're not shitty, you know, like you'd listen to him. It's like a 16-year-old.
Like an adult could have wrote that.
Lorde put out her first record when she was like 19. I think she writes most of that stuff. And I'm like, man, if the stuff that I wrote when I was like 19 or even like 25, it was really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just really impressed by people today who are creating work who are young. And I always thought like, I wanted creative success, quote unquote success, as a younger person. Like I did lots of things. I made films. I tried to do stuff, but it's like it took me a long time to grow up and to like find a voice and a perspective.
Okay,
right. So it's like I'm really grateful that there aren't like a dozen horrible records, you know, from when I like grew up in the church and was like thinking Jesus was God and stuff. You know what I mean? Like. So I'm really glad that those don't exist, like next to like Amy Grant, you know, at like the Christian bookstore. That'd be really bad.
So you have no hidden
music
history?
No, you know, there's one record that I made that is like, we'll call it out of print. You know what I mean? But you know, it is what it is. So it was like maybe in 2011, I was working for like a popsicle company in Brooklyn, and it was like a seasonal job. So you worked like 7 months out of the year, 7 days a week. There was and I made a bunch of money, and there was no time to spend any of the money. So I got to like October, and I was like, I can like stay in New York and work a part-time job and spend all of this money that I have, or I can like go on vacation, or I can like start to take music seriously. So I made my first EP at this guy's home studio. It's called Losing Her. And then I put that out in March of 2012 by myself. And it was like I was going to go back to work for this food business, this popsicle company. And we came at odds when we were negotiating the contract. And I was like, I'm not going to work for these guys this year. So I was unemployed, living in New York City, having just recorded an album that I was like putting out an EP. I knew nothing about the music industry, right? I just had like passion and you know, balls, I guess. The best advice that I've ever been given ever in my life, the guy, his name is Kevin Kendrick, who recorded, engineered, produced, played most of the instruments on that record. He looked at me like after we finished it, and he goes, how much do you practice a day? I was like, I don't know, like I play for like 45 minutes or an hour, like I play my songs. And he goes, okay. He goes, you are not good enough. And I was like, what? And he's like, you need to be playing for like 4 hours a day minimum. He said,
this is guitar or what?
Playing guitar, He said, we made this record, it's pretty good. He said people are going to hear it and they're going to come see you and be like, the guy made a decent enough EP, but he plays a shitty show, it's not worth it. So it was really hard for me to hear that at the time. I knew that I had like that I had growth. Growth was important.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh man, this is harsh. This is a very serious thing to say. But I found myself thinking I was going to go back to this seasonal job, and I was unemployed. So I spent the next 6 months, like actually, literally doing this. I would get up in the morning. I would go to the park. I was living in Greenpoint. I would go to McGolrick Park, and I would play every day for hours. Like play all my songs.
Yeah.
Then I would go home and like practice like guitar a little bit, and then I would go to an open mic every single night, 7 days a week for 6 months, and just like meet people and embarrass myself and play really poorly, and like at each open mic, I would identify. After a couple weeks, you identify the person, the guy or girl who was like maybe the best, you know, or like the alpha there.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, okay, so my goal is to get that motherfucker to stay in the room for like the first verse of my song.
Okay.
Right? So you keep playing and playing and playing. Then after like a month, like, oh, that guy just stayed in the room. Like he walked out to get a beer and then he walked back in and he listened to my verse, got to the chorus and he left. But I was like, okay, he was in the room. He's seen me like 5 or 6 times. Didn't take me seriously. And like, so that was what I did for 6 months. And like, you know, met other songwriters, started to see what people were doing, like, got comfortable playing in front of people in New York, and then started booking my own shows and going to other people's shows and just like figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know? How
How did you know you were better if before you didn't know you weren't that good?
Well, you just do it. You just learn by doing, right? And you get better with performance. I mean, there's just a lot of fear that has to like be suppressed that you have to control, right? Learning to control the fear, like learning to like, for me, it was like, I mean, sometimes I couldn't play the songs, you know what I mean? Like get through the goddamn song, like, or like, you know, play a B minor chord. It's like, I don't know how to do this in front of people. Like my fingers won't go in this position. So you get to the point where like you can actually play the chords on your songs in front of people. I mean, it's like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, for me, this was what it was like. I was just like, I love music. I want to play music. I don't have a job. I'm getting like $400 a week in unemployment. Like I can just pay my rent and like eat a little bit. I'm just going to do this as long as I can, because to me, it was like a gift from the universe. People were like, oh my God, you're unemployed. How are you getting by? What do you do? Can I buy you lunch? And I was like, yes, you can buy me lunch. But like, I feel like I don't believe in God, but I think that something has given me this opportunity that's like a beautiful thing. And I still believe that, because I don't know what would have happened with my career. I don't think I would have a career if I hadn't had that like 6 months to just figure shit out. And like, it was awesome. And then write a lot of songs, you know, during that time. And,
dude, I started the podcast when I was unemployed.
You did?
Yes.
So you know how that works?
Yes. I don't think I would have, I mean, because the time it took to do the podcast, to start everything, it's like I had unlimited time and I could interview anybody in any moment. It's like, I really don't think if I was employed. Because once I was employed, it was like, now I got to manage my time to do the podcast and work. So I totally get that.
It's cool.
Yeah. And
something that became clear to me during that time, maybe you've seen this, I don't know. There are a lot of people in New York City who are exceptional at what they do. People who are better musicians than I will ever be, than I even would even try to be. People I know personally who nobody is ever going to know. For 2 reasons. Because they don't have ambition and because they have a fallback plan. I learned during that 6 months that the only way I was ever going to be able to be successful on my terms with music was to have no fallback plan. Because if there was something easier to do, I would do it. Right? So that's been the case. Which is really hard, but I think it's the only way. I have friends who are like, I got to save enough money in 6 months. I'm going to like go on the road. Like I'm going to do this. I'm like, God bless you, but probably you're not. You know what I mean? Like,
Also, what you did too. I mean, you set up every night. I'm going to practice this many hours. I'm going to go to an open mic. Like, you have to have like things, actions that you can take. That you just can't like. You just can't do it. Eventually,
It requires like a ridiculous discipline, and the thing is, I've never been a disciplined person. I've never been like athletic. I've never like taken my body too seriously. Like I've never like I really like to watch like television now that there's, Netflix and I can watch a whole. I mean, like I haven't watched the second season of Glow because I know when I put that on, it's 8 hours. I'm going to watch the whole thing. That's just the kind of guy I am. Yeah. So it's like you just have to really. I remember a woman broke up with me in like the mid somewhere in the 2000s, and like she was just like, you just don't have any ambition. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, but my ambition is to love you, which I really believed at the time. But but I didn't understand that at the time, and then a few years later, I was like, oh, this is what she meant. Like I didn't have any ambition, like for myself, you know.
But even then, when people say ambition, it can mean like you going to a day job, and
absolutely.
Like it wouldn't even include your music career.
And I mean, ambition could be a guy who likes to like smoke pot and play video games. I mean, if you take it seriously, you just can't fall into stuff. Like life is too short. If your thing is to like get really high and play video games, and you want to do that, and like you work at the 7-Eleven so you can go home and fucking play video games and smoke pot, I think that's great because you have.
That's your plan.
Do what you want with your life. It's just when people are like, I don't know, maybe someday I'll do something. I'm just going to get high and play this video game. I'm like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, well, not fuck you. Like, okay, do what you want. But I think that's unfortunate.
Someday becomes never.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about creative pursuits. It's not about high-powered jobs. It's about intention and then like going after that intention with everything.
Yeah. So during that period when you were learning and becoming a better right? Did fuck with your self-esteem any? Because I know for me being unemployed, even though I was unemployed and I was doing something, this podcast, it still is like, because we're so judged by if you're working.
That's been a constant thing that comes and goes, right? It's like it's difficult as I grew in my career, and people don't understand what creative people do. Yeah. So people were like, "Oh, you haven't been working," and I'm like, well, I just wrote a record. You know what I mean? I did it all day, every day. I made like demos of like 20 songs. We're going to go record 14 in Nashville. Like, I have been working like really hard. People are like, but you haven't been like working. And I'm like, okay, you need to go now. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. And that gets in your head sometimes, like other people's voices, right? Whenever things don't go the way you want. During that time, that specific 6 months in 2012, I think that I was just so cocksure. You know what I mean? I was just like, this is what I'm doing. Like, and I kind of had to like block things out. It's almost like a horse with the blinders on. They don't see, the people on the side. Yeah.
So after that period, you have the EP. Did you feel comfortable even releasing the EP because you had grown?
Yeah. Oh, I put it out in March. I mean, like I put it out. The thing, it was weird because like I met this community of musicians in New York. Like I don't want to say musicians, I would say songwriters. It took me a long time to start to network with like musicians, capital M, right? But everybody had a record, but like, and I'd be like, I have a record, and nobody really heard it. Like, it was hard to get because they all knew each other, and I was coming in afterwards. So when it's like, here's my thing, and they're just like, sit down, kid. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm older than you, and it's just like, it was weird. So that album kind of like, it just kind of was. And it's weird because it's 5 songs, and like 3 of the songs I'm super proud of and love. Although a couple of them I would give them some lyric touches, and 2 of them I'm like, So 2 of them I've kind of rewritten, and one was on my last record, and one is on my new record. I don't know if people would be able to identify the one on this record or not. But for me, I was like, I wrote this song, and I can do it much better. I was the baby songwriter, you know? Yeah. But people, as time has gone on, a lot of people like this early EP, and it's weird to me because I think I've done so much better work, but people like the like hard on sleeve earnestness, like kind of like warbly voiced, like guy who's just like figured it out. I'm like, we made it in an apartment in Park Slope, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. Well, how'd you get to New York? Because we're both from
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh-esque, right? Yeah. I'm from Clairton.
You're from Clairton?
Yeah, Clairton proper.
I'm from Butler, yeah.
So I'm like, what is it? So like 35, 40 minutes from the city?
Yeah. Butler's like 45 minutes. Yeah, okay. Both of us, yeah. New York City for me, I mean, like, how long have you been here?
Like a little over a decade now.
Yeah, I've just hit 13 years.
Okay.
So it was like...
But you went to school there?
I went to the University of Pittsburgh.
Okay, same here.
Philosophy and English lit. Yeah, you went to the University.
Communications, yeah.
Right on. We're both very marketable. That communications, for a minute it was like, communications, this is everything.
Yeah. I remember my advisor told me, well, you really should be going to Point Park. You're in the wrong school for this. I'm like, wait, it's my first semester. What am I not leaving
like,
now?
God damn it.
Like, I'm just going to have to deal with this. What do you mean I'm at the wrong school?
It's like, I'm not even going to, like, I wouldn't have even changed just because, like, the registrar's office was so fucking far away. It's like, I'm not walking down there. It's hot out. I got to smoke cigarettes over here and drink beers. No, I'm not going. I'll just stay at this school. Forget it. New York City was like, I don't know, it was like the land of Oz or something, right? It was like, my sister moved here 6 years before I did. She since moved to Boston, which I don't understand why anyone would move to Boston. I'm sorry. But I started coming here to see her, and I was big drunk at the time, and I was just like taken by everything that it was. I mean, at the time, in like 1999, 2000, like the East Village was so different. I mean, I would come here and go out to like 5 bars, in one night, and none of them had TVs. And I was just there's no fucking TVs. And like at the time, like everything was $5. It was like $5. I'll take like a rum and soda, it's $5. I'll take like a beer, it's $5. And then you would go outside and smoke cigarettes and like meet people from all over the world, and I had never experienced this. Pittsburgh is so segregated. You know what I mean? And it's so like, just the conversations I would have there were weird. And here people are just like talking about ideas and politics. And I'm meeting people from like Poland, you know what I mean, on the street. I'm talking to some guy from Russia, and he's not like a Russian who lives in New York. He's like a guy from Russia who's like leaving in like 4 hours. He's like, I'm just drinking because my plane's not for 4 hours. Stuff like that. And I was like, I've never been around this kind of energy before. So it became a goal, like, how do I get there? And, just made that happen.
And how did you get there?
There was a U-Haul.
Okay.
No, I was married at the time. We moved to Philadelphia first, and then we moved back to Pittsburgh.
Okay. So you dragged your wife with you too?
At the time,
was it dragged?
It was kind of like, we were in transition. I mean, we kind of came here separately, and then she ended up moving here. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful person. I was a terrible person, and that didn't work.
Yeah.
But I came here in 2005 and lived in Queens for 6 months in Jackson Heights. And not the Jackson Heights with like the Indian food, like further out.
Yeah.
And then moved to the East Village with her in a 250 square foot apartment with a 25-pound dog, which is partly why our relationship fell apart, because that's just crazy town. But yeah, so that was that. And then I spent like 6 years in New York, just like living and breathing before I really embraced music. I mean, I was writing songs and I was like fucking around with the guitar, but New York, it's like quicksand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it can swallow you up, and like, you just can't, you can't take your eye off of your goal, because the city will swallow you. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember De La Vega in the East Village?
No.
It was this artist named De La Vega.
Okay.
And he did all this like art with words, right? And he was on St. Mark's, I think between First and A, and eventually got priced out. I don't even know if he's in the city anymore, but I would see his art all the time. My friend lived next door. I used to go talk to him. But one of the things that he had, one of the sayings that he had that were all over the place were, the city will try to steal your dream. Don't let it.
Yeah.
So it's funny because all these years later, I'm about to put out a record called City Living. And the chorus of the city will try to steal your dream, but like De La Vega said, don't let it.
Yeah.
So it's like that was such an important thing to me, like being surrounded by artists like that, and that kind of stuff seeps into your brain to the point that however many years later, it was that like 2005, like now in 2018, I'm putting out a record called City Living that's inspired by the art of this man, that I would see all the time. So New York for me was it's just magical. You know, I got lost in it. I almost lost myself. Okay. Like it becomes. I mean, I lost, you know, a marriage, a relationship. I lost a couple other relationships. Mm-hmm. I could have died. I mean, I was behaving like an insane person.
So you really didn't have a direction.
I did. I came here as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. I had made several short films, and I think I was going to try to get them into festivals.
Okay.
We did a big screening in Pittsburgh right before I left at like the Lowe's movie theater or whatever, and like
That's a big deal for people who don't know, right?
Yeah, it's like a big thing. Yeah. I mean, we rented it, you know what I mean? But like hundreds of people came, whatever. And but I came here and just got like, it's like a kid in a candy store. Mm-hmm. It's just like, well, I could work on this. I need to go get a job so I have some money, and I need to get to the East Village by midnight because then I have 4 hours to fucking drink. You know what I mean? So it just became this crazy thing, and like you're sitting in a bar, you're sitting in Tile Bar at 2:00 in the morning on a Tuesday, talking to someone who is like went to high school with Patti Smith. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. People were just telling. I don't know. I heard so many stories. Like, who knows what was true and who was bullshitting?
Yeah.
But it's like, you just meet all these interesting people. You know what I mean? Like Nora Jones was sitting in the corner. And it's like, oh my God, that's Nora Jones. Don't make eye contact. She clearly wants me to look away. And I'd never experienced anything like that. Like now it seems so regular. Mm-hmm. But it was like, my mind was like constantly my friends would pull me aside and be like, listen, you gotta stop freaking out whenever we like are around famous people.
Okay. Oh, you would actually.
I'd just be like, "What the hell?" And like, I remember I met this woman, and she had like lived with Bob Weir, and like the Grateful Dead for me was like this huge thing, and I was just like, "Oh my God!" And that was the night my friend was like, "Listen, if we're gonna hang out, we're gonna meet people that know people, and like it's a thing, and just like you got to be cool with him." And I was like, "But did she live with Bob Weir?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's okay." Mm-hmm. So there was that, But eventually, the music kind of became the thing.
How did it become the thing if you were sort of a mess, if we may say?
Oh, I was a mess.
Okay, so how does a mess start focusing on your dream?
Because I think it's weird the way fear works. I did everything. I mean, I've worked so many, I've never worked construction, but I've worked like so many jobs. I've worked at offices. I've worked for like every possible level of the food industry. I've worked in retail. I've managed like all different types of groups of people. I've done so many things. Trying to find a place, been in so many relationships that I thought would like fill me up. Like, this is what I need to do. I need to work this bullshit job so I can love this person and provide a life for them, because this is what I'm here to do. Yeah. And the whole time it's like all I ever wanted to do from the time I was like 12 years old was be in a fucking band. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just like, fear kept me from doing it, and I thought I wasn't good enough, and I thought I didn't have a voice that mattered. It's interesting listening to like early Whiskey Town and Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams. I remember hearing Heartbreaker by Ryan Adams and just being like, I mean, I was a big Bob Dylan fan and I understood folk music, but when I heard that Heartbreaker record, I was just like, this fucking guy is just talking about being in love with women and being sad and like just telling his story, and some of it's so specific to like New York and location stuff that like there's no way people could even know what he's talking about sometimes unless they've like been there. But it's so good and it's connecting with so many people, and I realized specifically through that record, but then as I started to like investigate other people making music at the time, like, oh, my voice matters. I've always wanted, I hope someday I get to, I mean, Ryan Adams was like around the East Village whenever I was there, and I would like talk to him and stuff, but he was like on heroin and I was fucking loaded. So it was like, it didn't matter. But I was just like, I hope someday I just get to be like, the reason that I felt like I had a voice was because of Heartbreaker, because like it's just so exciting to me. So that kind of made me realize that, like, having done all of these things to try to like fill myself up and not understanding yet like intention or any kind of like Buddhist ideas of like detachment, and this kind of stuff, just kind of being lost, growing up really religious and like having my head filled with a lot of nonsense and not really being in therapy yet or like sorting out who I was. I just kept doing stuff and realized it didn't work and didn't make me happy. And I was pursuing creative things that weren't going anywhere. But I always was writing songs. Bad songs.
Yeah.
But always writing songs. And then when I realized that my voice mattered, I started to take it really seriously and be like, what lay the songs out, like, what is worth people hearing here? Like, throw away these 50.
Yeah.
So these 4 songs maybe, and then just trying to work it out.
Okay. Were you thinking that what you were writing that nobody would want to hear?
I felt like it was
authentic.
It was like, yeah, it was like trite. It was like unimportant. It was like, I think so many people feel this way. You know what I mean? Like, that what they have to say isn't important or like won't connect with it. But the thing is, there's also this weird thing that went in my mind. I imagine other people experience it, where you think like it's important that it connects with other people, as if that has something to do with it, which it really doesn't. The exercise of like telling your story and creating something is what it is. You know, hopefully it does mean something to someone else, and if you're honest and authentic to yourself, hopefully it will connect with people. But that can't be why you do it.
Yeah, I want to connect.
Right?
Like, there has to be something beforehand.
Yeah.
And that sets you free into
being
able to get to the EP part. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the whole process of like, okay, now I got to find some, I got to find studio, I got to find...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was like... it was learning to be a performer and like learning to play. So I started playing in like a folk trio because I felt like I wasn't good enough to play my own. Eventually, I realized I was never going to be able to be successful unless I learned how to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And we toured for a while. We just started touring in like 2013. 2013. We just started going out of town and playing shows. Somebody told me, I was like at a Thanksgiving dinner somewhere in New York, and some friend of mine was like, well, what you got to do is you got to play 180 shows a year, and like 75% of those have to be outside of New York. Okay. I don't know where he got that information. He was very intoxicated. He probably was just making it up. But I just used that as a benchmark. I was like, I need to play 180 shows, and 75% of them need to be outside of New York. Okay. So we started in 2013, and that little group played for a little bit, and then I just kept doing it. Played like 100 shows in 2014, like 120 shows in 2015, like 160 or 170 shows in 2016. Just touring by myself and like learning how to do it, and like constantly just moving past fear, right?
And the fear was
the fear of, I mean, all of the fears, right? Like the fear of not having a stable career, the fear of like not having like any savings, the fear of like being unstable with geography. Like I literally lived in a van for like a year and a half. I mean, I have friends all over the country, and I stay with people, and I would go back and stay with my parents, but I like rented out my apartment. You know, like I sublet my apartment, and I drove around and like slept in my van in like Walmart parking lots and like fucking played 150 shows, you know, and just like, but the thing is, when you're doing this all by yourself and you're like booking everything by yourself, eventually a manager came on who was a friend, you know what I mean? And it was just the two of us. Yeah. But for a long time, I mean, I was doing everything. And so you play 150 shows a year. And a normal band, what would that be, like 4 months or something, like 4.5 months? Yeah. So maybe it's 5 months, because you have some days off, and then you like and you take like a month and then a month off, and then like you do 6 weeks and you take 2 weeks off. So I was just on the road for like a year, and there might be like a week with no shows, and then you play like 7 shows, and there's like 10 days with no shows, because like I'm doing it myself, and I'm booking it. I started out by booking like the first 4 months, and then every day I'm waking up, brushing my teeth at the Walmart, I'm going to the Starbucks because I've got the free like coffee card, you know, so I get the smallest coffee, and then I sit there for like, depending on whether I have a show, 5 to 10 hours, booking shows all day, hop in the van, either go to a movie and then go find a place to sleep, or drive however many hours to the gig, maybe go to a movie if I'm early, go to the gig, play the show, and then drive somewhere else. So this was like what I did constantly. Yeah. So there's tons of fear, because there's so many places that like things happening that don't make sense. Being in America, understanding the way this country is and the way some people think, I'm steeped in this like tremendous amount of privilege because I'm a white male.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would be in situations that I felt uncomfortable myself. And I started to like understand empathy and like try to like appreciate other people and other people's stories and like what it's like for people that aren't like me, you know? Strip away a lot of the artifice and a lot of the things that I like, things that I thought were true. But we have this, especially I assume people like me, we see this in the world, right?
Yeah.
Tend to think that like the way we see the world is the way the world is, just because the world caters to us.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely bullshit.
Many
right?
different worlds.
Yeah, there's many different worlds. And you get out and start to see this and go, oh, and it makes you a better person.
Yeah.
Right? So then there's all of these fears of like, where am I going to be and how am I going to make this happen? And like, does anyone want to hear the music? And I think what I have to say is valuable. Is it valuable? You know, you're constantly battling with yourself. And then there's things that are happening to me where I'm like, am I a good person? Like, how have I lived my life? Like, what have I done that's awful? Like, how have I treated women? How have I treated minorities? You know what I mean? What have I done to, like, bring people into my life who are different? Like, and there's this constant thing. So I'm, like, sleeping in the van at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Haven't brushed my teeth, haven't taken a shower in a week. And I'm like, and I don't even, like, have any friends who are, like, aren't white people that I'm going to see for, like, a month. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm a terrible person. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on, right? And then you're driving.
You have so much time to think.
Well, because you're just thinking and you're in your
Yeah.
head. And then I'm like going through the South, you know, and then you'd like sit at a bar drinking a glass of soda and some guy would come up and be like, "You're from New York City." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I got guns. What do you think about guns?" You know, it's just like, this is so weird. And you have to like
look like everybody else.
Right. Yeah. And you just have to learn how stuff. But the thing is, I learned that like a lot of these people are like, you know, people are awesome a lot of the time, you know, and like we, God, I don't want to get into it too much, but you know, my opinion is that there's this like group at the top. I'm going to call them like the oligarchy, like this 1% that is trying to like separate us, and they do a really fucking good job of it. When we really need to be like looking up and being like, income inequality, this is a big problem. We're fighting amongst ourselves, so we don't recognize it, right? Because when I started to talk to some of these like rednecks in bars and be like, this guy's not a bad guy. Like, he has some fucked up ideas about guns, but like, this guy's not going to like go out and kill anybody, and like his kids aren't going to kill anybody, and he's got like 100 acres, you know, in Oklahoma, and he likes to go out on his golf cart and like shoot cans. Whatever. I think it's weird, but like, there's just so many different ways of living that I didn't understand. And as like a person who'd been like dug in New York for a decade, I was like, you got to be like this. And I was like, oh, it's not only like the whiteness that is an inaccurate representation of like the world and the way that I saw it, but it's actually also my like liberalism and my sort of like urban perspective. You know what I mean? That like everything has to get checked. And I learned that on the road, and this is playing into my like fears and my growth, and it's all just happening at the same time. So it's like I don't know.
How do you stay motivated during that time to keep doing it? I mean, because there had to have been shows where you go and like there's one person there.
Oh, a lot of them are bad. Because I mean, I'm playing dive bars and coffee shops, like, you know, I pretty much went from
background noise for people while they drank.
Yeah, I'm going from here to Kansas City, like, and then I did a big loop down all through Florida, and I would just do this loop, right? And then I eventually did one tour to California, but basically it was here to Kansas City and like everywhere in between. Playing music in front of people is awesome. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, I played a show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there were literally 2 people and the bartender. And I was like, I'm going to do this show, like, you guys, you're here. The guy was like a big guy in NASCAR. He was really cool. His wife was beautiful. And we went in this back room, and the bartender was sober. It was really cool because I'd been sober for, I don't know, like a year and a half or something. And the bartender's like, you know, you need a beer. And I was like, no. He's like, are you sober? And I was like, yeah. So I had this whole moment with the bartender. So then there's nobody in this place. So I go in the back and play my show, and this couple watches me, and the bartender comes back and watches me. I mean, it was dumb, right? There's 3 people. But like, I think they gave me like $50. They're just like, here you go. And they were like really touched by the music, you know? They were like, I just did my show, you know, as if it was like Madison Square Garden. I mean, you just go out and do the show.
Which is how you should do it. Because it's important to the people to see you. That they get a good show.
Exactly.
Yeah, they shouldn't get a half-ass show because you're like, oh, well, there's no one here.
Yeah. So for me, it's like playing music in front of people is so fucking cool, and it's such a privilege and like an honor, and like I can't believe that I am able to do it, that I get the opportunity. And like I was very aware, like the 4 years that I was on the road, like really all the time, I was like, this is my opportunity to tour. Like everyone's always like, what's going to happen in the future? Like where are you going to be? Like when are you going to get to tour for real? Like when are you going to tour with a rock band? When are you going to? I'd love to come see you with a rock. And I was like, this is me playing music. Like this is the shot. It's not if I get to like fucking open for Bright Eyes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm playing some dive bar in like Norman, Oklahoma. And Mark, who's running sound and owns that place, like loves my music, and he's giving me $100, And the last time he gave me $50, and he wants me to play for 3 hours, and it's full of smoke. But like, this is me on tour, and this is me playing for these people in this bar who are having a good time, even though they're playing pool and kind of disturbing the quiet songs. But it's like that was it. So I really, it's almost like method acting or something. It's like you just become it. It's like I'm like, I don't see rock star, but it's like I am a touring musician, and like this is what I do for a living. Like this is what I do. Yeah. So it was exciting. So that's what motivated me. It's just like it was like I get to go play shows. Like I have friends in New York who are like writing songs 10 times better than mine, but they're not playing them for anyone, and I'm out playing my songs in front of all these people, and like they remember me from last time. Yeah. You know what I mean? When I was here 4 months ago. It's cool.
Yeah. Making fans, one person at
a time? Like literally one person at a time.
Because I know it, and I think something to playing solo, because there's so many people I interview, and like they only can do a show because they have a full band, like, once every 2-3 months.
Right.
And like
that's where I'm at now in New York. Yeah.
And how do you grow by doing these shows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't.
Just dozens and dozens of shows, back-to-back shows.
I'm at the point now where like I've put out like 2 records and then like I think 4 or 5 EPs, and we're about to put out the 3rd record, which is a big album that we went to Nashville and made at this place called The Bomb Shelter. There's this guy Andrea Tokic who is amazing, and he records to tape. He did like one of the Langhorne Slim records, The Spirit Moves. He did the first Alabama Shakes record. He engineered that and co-produced it. Went platinum. So we did this whole like very organic kind of thing with like real instruments, made this 80s rock record, but like in this kind of old fashioned way, So now I'm in New York, and I've been playing rock shows. I have done 2. We're going to do a big one on July 26th to launch the album. But it's like finding the right guys to hire, because it's not really like, if I was like 22, it would be like I would be a band, you get like a gang. But now it's kind of like finding guys and like putting together as much money as you can to like get the best guys, so you can do a couple of rehearsals and go out and do like a kick-ass show. It's a very different way of approaching it than I ever expected. But I don't have the time to like, you know what I mean? And also I'm at the point in my career where like I'm not famous, but I know what I want. I know where I'm going, and I know how I want things to be. So it's very collaborative, like in the studio. Like when I meet a guy like Andrea Tokic, I'm like, and he says, maybe we should add a guitar solo here. Like I'm like, okay, man.
I'm not gonna fight you.
But when it comes to the live show, I want the people to like have fun, and I want them to contribute ideas. But like, this is the record, and we're kind of going in this direction. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not writing songs and like opening doors for it. They already have a blueprint, So it's a different kind of thing. But the guys I've been playing with have been amazing. We've done 2 fucking sick rock shows, and that's like the most fun I've had ever. Like playing these songs that the last show we did at Rockwood, we did about 4 or 5 songs that I've played for years solo, and I was just like always waiting to hear them on the records they have a Rockwood. Like having a guy like ripping a solo next to you, and just like, this is amazing.
So for the new album, like, what were your intentions going into this album that maybe you didn't have for the other ones?
It's funny. I wrote a song kind of I met this woman in Columbus, Ohio, who had just like, I met her and I thought she was really beautiful, and I was like looking at her on Facebook or whatever, and then it's like she was married, and I was like, oh, she's married. And then I played a show with her a second time, and she showed up at the show, and she's like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, things great. How are you? She's like, I just got divorced. And I was like, oh, she didn't actually get divorced. Her husband had like left her that day.
Okay.
Since she's got divorced, I assume.
Yeah.
But like we just kind of hung out that night. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "You want to go swimming?" And I was like, "Swimming?" It was like 1 a.m. and there was like lightning and thunder. And she's like, "Yeah." So we like, she had this house by a quarry, like full of water. So we like go to this quarry, and it's like 10 feet into the air above the water, and you can't see the water. It's like black below, and it's like thundering and lightning. And like we start making out, and I was like, "This is crazy." And then she just like took her clothes off and dove in the water.
Yeah.
She's like, "Are you coming?" And I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." So
like if I have to.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do? So I left Columbus, and then like I kept checking up on her to see how she was because I knew she was going through a thing, And I called her like one Sunday afternoon or texted her something like, "What's going on?" She's like, I'm with like 4 of my girlfriends, and we just like dropped a bunch of acid, and we're going to go float in the quarry on rafts.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So I wrote this song called Trippin' on a Raft with Girls, right? And it was just like this exercise. I was just like, oh, this would be funny.
Yeah.
Like, and I sent it to her. I was like, I wrote this about you. She's like, that's funny. And I showed it to my manager, and I was just like, what do you think about this? It was like, I made this demo, and she's like, that's hilarious, but whatever. So a year later, I was writing this record, and I was supposed to spend a week in Nashville at my friend's house, and we had like a falling out. So I went back to my parents' house. So I'm like in my childhood bedroom, like working on songs that would become city living. And I called my manager, and she's like, I'd written this whole record. It was all country songs, like an entire, like 14, 15 songs. It was all like country songs, like Americana. She's like, you ever going to do anything with that song, Trippin' on a Raft with Girls? And I was like, oh shit. And I like scrapped all of the songs and then wrote a record around that tune. I was like, if this is a pop song, if this is my idea of a pop song, what will fit with this? Okay. And how can I make something that's like summery and like upbeat? That's what I wanted. So I took that one song, which came from this experience of jumping off this cliff in an electrical storm and like listening to this woman talk about dropping acid. And then how can I make something fun that's me? And that this song will like make sense in that context. And then when we went to finish the record, we almost dropped that song and didn't put it on. And I was like, I'm really glad we did.
Yeah. So you scraped that other album because this was more like how you wanted to feel?
Yeah. Well, I am grateful to her for telling me, for pushing. I think she brought up Tripping on a Raft with Girls as a joke, but it just made me realize, like, I had done 2 records that were, I would call them squarely Americana, like country rock, and I'm proud of them. They're cool, you know. I didn't know how to make records at the time, so they're a little long. Like, I would like to put them out on vinyl and take some of the songs off and redistribute the songs, remix them, whatever. Maybe not remix, remaster them, but I was like, I've been doing this Americana thing, and I've been going to like folk events, like this thing called Folk Alliance, and I've been going to like Americana Fest and these things, and I was like, not really being embraced by that community. Lots of friends, but people weren't really responding to the music, and I was like, I felt like maybe I was making like this folk rock music because that's as big as I could dream. Like I thought like this, I can imagine this in my brain. Yeah. But I went to do a test, like a test single at the bomb shelter before we committed to a full record because that's goddamn expensive. And that's when I met Andrea Tokic, and we did 3 songs. We ended up doing 3 songs, but we did this song called "Speak My Mind," which I had written as a protest to motherfucking Donald Trump. Yeah. And I went in and I was like, Andre, he had the song. And I was like, so this one I think is just like a little protest song, acoustic guitar, maybe some like light drums, and like a pedal steel. Yeah. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, okay, that's not how I hear it at all. And then he's like, can you trust me with this? And he kind of described to me his vision, and he wanted to make it into this like Beatles-esque kind of Abbey Road sort of thing with like tack piano and like Nashville guitar, which I'd never even heard. I didn't even know what that was. And like just this kind of big, fun, carnival, like Fellini-esque kind of sound in this like very serious lyrical piece. And for me, everything had always been lyric driven, and it had never really been about the music. It had been like the music is supporting the lyrics. Maybe because I grew up listening to goddamn Christian rock, which is all just a con, right? Yeah. But this, like, I realized, like, I can do whatever I want with the music. So we did this little EP, and that was in like December, and then in March it came out. That was March of, I think, last year. And then I went to Nashville in, I think, April to write this next record. And I hadn't really realized yet how big I could dream, right? And then when Amanda, my manager, pointed that out and said, what are you going to do with this song? It just like clicked in my brain. Oh, I'm like holding myself back. Like my job is to write these songs and then not be afraid to collaborate with people who can imagine them even bigger than I can, which is exactly what happened. So I gave those guys like very specific notes, but the notes that I gave them were like, imagine a rooftop in Brooklyn at 3 a.m. after like a party, and like people are half naked and like you're sort of drunk and you're like watching the people start to go to work the next day on the street below. You know what I mean? Like I'm sending them these descriptions and I'm like, I want the record to sound like this. Yeah. And they were like, I think we'll use synthesizers.
Got it.
So it was that kind of thing. But it was exciting for me to realize that like I could make music that I didn't have to hear it in my head when I wrote it. You know what I mean? That like we could talk about it and I'd be like, oh, what about that? That's a great idea. Okay. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
And how is making music, or how has it changed from not being sober to being sober?
It's better. I never really wrote songs sober, but drunk. But being drunk sapped me of my ambition. I mean, I was active alcoholic for 21 years. I mean, I drank hard. Yeah, I should be dead. Yeah, you know, like I don't know why my liver didn't get damaged. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why somebody didn't beat the shit out of me in the East Village for shit that I would say to people. Like it should have happened. I don't know why. But the music definitely suffered because of my because even during that 6-month period where I was like, you know, very structured and doing things, like I was still making time for booze every night, right? Like, and I hadn't, like, eventually I realized, like, oh, I can't drink around people because people don't understand. Yeah. And I eventually was like, taking a 6-pack and like a bottle of wine and like a half a bottle of bourbon in my apartment, and I would just sit there and be like, which is it going to be tonight? You know, shut off the phone. But at that time I was just drinking around people like it was normal. And I think that damaged relationships, like business relationships, damaged potential business relationships, damaged friendships. So the booze didn't so much impact the songwriting, except that I wrote less songs because I was like less available. Yeah. But it definitely compromised every facet of my interactions with people, and it kept me from knowing myself. So I was only able to get so far with the songs. You know what I mean? Like I think the songs are, and the songs that I'm writing now that like will be hopefully on the next record, I think are the best things that I've ever written, and they're really personal. But I'm able to like shamelessly access that, and like not second guess myself. Yeah. Whereas when I was really drunk, I'd be like, I don't know if this is any good, or like if I should be saying this, because I just wasn't in touch with my emotions. Therapy and sobriety, man.
So what made you what's the thing that stopped you from living that life?
I woke up one morning after nothing really eventful happening the day before. It was a Monday morning. I was working in bars. I was working a brunch shift on Saturday and Sunday, and then I was going and working at another bar Saturday and Sunday night.
So you were alcoholic and you were working.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And that Sunday, I had started drinking at about 2 at the first job, and then I got to the other job at 4, because we don't have to drive in New York City, kids. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just fucking trains and walking. And I got there, and I started drinking, and then I remember closing there at about midnight. It was like a restaurant bar. I remember closing at 12 or 12:30, and I remember doing about 5 or 6 shots with like the chef as we were leaving. Like we were drinking, like I think it was tequila. We were doing like tequila shots. But I had been drinking since like 2. Yeah. And I remember calling a friend of mine who's still friends with me, thank God. I mean, we've been on and off, but she's forgiven me. I mean, I remember talking to her on the phone for like maybe 3 hours. And I don't know what I said. I remember crying and like sitting in some doorway, but nothing really out of the ordinary for a Sunday night. But I woke up on a Monday morning, that Monday morning, and I was still pretty drunk. And I opened my eyes and I was staring at the ceiling. And I realized, like, this is exactly how I'm going to live for the rest of my life. And I'm going to die in my 50s or 60s or before. Yeah. Or I'm going to stop drinking. And if I'm going to stop drinking, I have to do it right fucking now. Mm-hmm. And I walked out of my room and I said to my roommate, I think I have to quit drinking. I think I have to do it right now. And she gave me a hug and she's like, I think that's the best thing you've ever thought. And she's like, whatever you need, I'll do whatever you need. And then she didn't, and she kept booze in the house. She's wonderful. No, she's very supportive. Yeah. And that was that. And then I was supposed to have like 4 days off. So I was like from the bar. Yeah. And my manager called me up the next morning and she's like, do you want to work happy hour? And this was at a bar at the Seaport and it was like a 4-hour shift and it was like always at least $250. And like you're just like making vodka and sodas for like douchebags. You mean like big vodka and sodas for douchebags for 4 hours and you get $250 at least. Yeah. Because those guys will tip like to impress. I'm like, this woman is not impressed by the fact that you just gave me $5 for a vodka and soda, but I'll take it. You know what I mean? So it was like that. But so my second day of sobriety, it hadn't even been 48 hours. I like went to this bar and I was like, so this is it. Like I'm either going to like not drink this shift because I drank every single shift. I'm either not going to or I am. And I made it through the shift and I was like, okay, one foot in front of the other.
Okay. And how long has that been?
It's been over 3 years.
Okay. Excellent, dude.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. And it's weird because I'm like, I'm just starting to get my emotions back. It's anybody that's in recovery. It's like you get this. Like I started drinking when I was 19, so when I got sober, it's like I was emotionally kind of still a 19-year-old. I'm like crying about stupid stuff, you know, like fighting with this wonderful woman I was dating, and like she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And my therapist is like, "You're 19." But finally, I've started to get things together, and I'm writing songs now where I'm like an adult, and I can start to. I'm excited to like, what are the next 30 songs where I'm like actually processing things as like a man instead of a teenager, because I'm really writing from this very kind of adolescent space. I was experiencing life kind of as an adolescent for like years and years, so it's exciting to start to be able to say things that are more just to have a different perspective. For me, it's exciting
because you have access.
People will they'll hear my record in 3 years. They'll be like, "He's still writing about girls and it's just fucking sad. What's up? I don't understand." It's like a disco record, but it's fucking sad.
Cars and girls like Springsteen, right?
Exactly, right? I don't know.
Dude, that's great. So you got the albums coming out July 27th?
It comes out July 27th. Yes. The release show is at Berlin on Avenue A, July 26th. That's going to be awesome. There's tickets on Eventbrite, which is kind of cool. And then my Facebook, all of my social media is Music by Rue. This is interesting. I do, since I've been in New York for a while, and like, you know, you're working, and then the money starts to go, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I started doing background work on films and TV, just like to pick up some cash. And I was at this amusement park in Long Island the other day with this like young lady. She was 11. Yeah. And she was so great. She made fun of me the entire time. And so we're talking about like her and me and stuff. And so she asked if I was on social media. And I was like, yeah, all my social media is Music by Rue. And she started to laugh. Yeah. And I was like, what are you laughing? She's like, that's just so ridiculous. And I was like, what? She's like, it's just so regular. Why would you pick something so regular? I'm like, well, people have to like remember it has to be simple, and it's like got to be, it's like branding, you know. She's like, it's just so dumb. She's 11, but now she follows me on Instagram, so I win, you know. If you hear this, Jasmine, I win. Halfway through the day, I started giving it back to her, and she stopped and looked at me, and she's like, can you not be sarcastic for 1 minute? And I was like, I love her. This 11-year-old is so great. If this is what the youth of America are like, there's hope.
Jasmine's the future.
So it's Music by Rue. That's everything across the board. Tickets for the show are available everywhere. I'm playing with Ian Mellencamp and RFA from Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a ridiculously good rock and roll show. I'm very excited about that.
And plans post-album?
We're putting that together. I mean, they'll be touring in the fall. I'm not sure exactly the shape it's going to be.
But Music by Rue.
.com. I'm the living in the van, like going around playing solo thing. It's a little bit. I want to be a little more intentional, you know. But this is what I do, so it's like that's a living. Yeah, it's an honest living, and I'm proud of the stuff I do. So we're just going to keep going.
Okay. This was great.
Yeah, man.
I love this. This is going to be one of my favorite interviews, man.
Oh, it's so much fun. I'm just so grateful to you for this opportunity, and I'm excited to be part of this. You know, what you're building.
Yeah. Thank you for doing
really
this.
Really honored to be part of that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Did I leave anything out?
I don't think so. I just think, I would say what's important is like honor yourself, live with intention, and don't take any shit from anybody, and fucking vote. We're in America, fucking vote. You have to vote. Our government is fucked, and we're the only people that can change it. We're putting goddamn children in cages, and we can't allow this. So vote. Go out and vote. Speak your mind. Speak truth to power. Because if you don't, who the fuck is gonna?
Yes.
I'll be doing it.
Yes. Sounds like a great ending. Rue.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
It was a challenging year, to say the least. Xenophobic warmonger and oligarchs, ACLU amicus briefs. Decency can't dance alone, so take to the streets. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the take, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose heart. Boundaries irrelevant as children die, who can't escape bullets. American weapons, Chicago to Aleppo fire. Military industrial complex. The oligarchs smile. They traffic in fear to divide. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the take, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose heart. Raise our voices loud, they've got to go. Politicians on the take, police trafficking and hate. Everyday citizens stand up to the dark, like Lucy Burns and Rosa Parks. Speak truth to power, don't lose. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. Grass outside is greener than I've ever seen. It crushes underneath our toes, it stains our naked feet. By the quarry, she's inflating. No baiting. Lie down, listen closely to the sound. The melody that slowly starts to hold. Is there a door? Conscious of the lives that came before that. I'll be tripping on a raft with girls, the soft skin like a summer wind. We'll let go and forget about what's
And there you have it. Tripping on a Raft with Girls from Rue Snider and Don't Lose Heart. Both from City Living, out July 27th. It is great. You should get it. The release party in New York City is on July 26th at Berlin. Head on over to musicbyrue.com for more information and to get tickets. I will be at the release party, so say hello if you see me. I am online at talkmusictalk.com. You can also find me on social media at This Is Boice. And if you enjoyed this episode with Rue, I would appreciate it if you could share it on social media. Maybe you could screenshot the episode on your phone and tag me when you do. You can also leave a 5-star rating wherever you like to listen to your podcast, especially on iTunes. This all helps to grow the Talk Music Talk audience. There is also a TMT app. That's right, wherever you like to get your apps, and it is free. You can also stream the podcast pretty much everywhere like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio. You can just search for Talk Music Talk. Also, you can find the podcast on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/This Is Boice. I say all of this because my dream is to be able to do this podcast full time, and maybe you can help me out. You can help by sharing the podcast. Also, if you happen to know any advertisers or sponsors, or if that happens to be you, please email me at boice@talkmusictalk.com and let's talk about it. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz. And there you have it, 3 of my favorite past conversations. Dig into that back catalog. If you have not done so yet, you will find plenty to enjoy. That was Rue Snider. Before that, Half Wave, and starting it off, Mel D. Cole. Links in the show notes to check out their music, to check out the photography of Mel. You will enjoy what they do. I am online, several places, talkmusictalk.com for more podcast information and to stream every single episode. I'm also on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at This Is Boice. Special request for you. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. Just search for Talk Music Talk with Boice. I'm also on a host of other places that I have not even heard of. Whatever you do, though, please leave a 5-star rating and or review to help grow the Talk Music Talk audience. There is a Talk Music Talk app. It is free wherever you like to get your apps. Again, search for Talk Music Talk with Boice. And don't forget about my other podcast, The Strandcast, the official podcast of Strand Bookstore, located on 12th and Broadway here in New York City. Link in the show notes. Thank you so much for checking out this special episode. Until next time, and there will be a next time, this one's for you, Liz.